Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 461, The Trinity 2 chapters combined. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. In the heavens, within the immortal mist-shrouded Jade Palace, an ancient entity nodded and remarked, the outcome is near. The inspection team has descended, and the others will likely follow suit. An elderly woman added, let's hope those below understand their good fortune. At this juncture, when even a grandmaster walking upon the earth risks aggravating the world's ailing constitution, being invited up to the heavens is a blessing for them. They remained calm, shifting the conversation to other matters. This tea is rather bitter, an earth immortal remarked, frowning at the Tao resonance swirling in his cup. He found the taste unpleasant. Another ancient entity took a shallow sip and replied, we'll have to make do with it. The great Tao tree's disintegration has severely depleted its primordial qi. Excessive harvesting of new buds is unwise for now. In the night void, by the sea, the blue fire spring dyed the surging waves azure, casting an eerie blue glow across the night sky. The yellow canopy umbrella slowly rotated, its cloud-patterned tassels swaying gently. Phoenixes chirped softly as they spread their wings, while dragon shadows coiled around the umbrella's perimeter. Starlight cascaded from its surface like shimmering rain. Beneath the umbrella stood Qin Ming, his figure tall and imposing. His deep eyes radiated calm and composure, his mere presence intimidating the entire scene, forcing both teams to retreat as if facing a formidable enemy. Many faces turned pale, no one dared to utter a word. The only sound to be heard was the rhythmic crashing of waves against the reefs nearby, a sound that rumbled like distant thunder, echoing intermittently through the silence. Zhang Yan was a figure of considerable renown in the heavens. Having spent years nurturing his blade and amassing his power, he had just unleashed his ultimate strike, a blow that stirred the very ocean into a frenzy of towering, tempestuous waves. Yet, in the end, Qin Ming had effortlessly shattered it with a single sword strike, obliterating both man and blade. At that moment, the towering waves, dozens of layers deep, that had been swept up into the night sky by that single blade strike finally crashed down. They engulfed the entire beach, thundering with a deafening roar like a stampede of 10,000 horses. Beneath the yellow canopy umbrella, the youth stood as immovable as a mountain. The approaching waves parted and shattered before reaching him, allowing the seawater to cascade harmlessly around him. With unwavering steps, he advanced toward the crowd, pressing them back. Shen Wei's eyes flashed with icy resolve as she gripped her halberd tightly. Her armor shimmered with a brilliant, metallic sheen, trembling slightly with suppressed rage. Her partner was dead, and, in truth, had fate not intervened, Zhang Yan would have eventually become her Tao companion. Qin Ming spoke, his voice dripping with mockery, do you hate me so much? Then come join the imperial family under the yellow canopy umbrella. Lovers should be together, whether in life or death. They are ultimately destined to reunite. You're nothing but a demon from the abyss. Shen Wei pointed her halberd at the figure before her, though she dared not step outside the protective circle of the formation. Utterly heinous. Yu Botao's silver hair whipped around him like the mane of a great silver lion. His face darkened, pure yang consciousness radiating from his body in surging waves of silver light. To the members of these two factions, the figure advancing upon them, stepping over the corpses of their fallen comrades with every stride, was the very embodiment of a great villain. Qin Ming swept his gaze across the group. Do you truly believe that, simply because you hail from the 9 heavens, you're entitled to look down on those who dwell on the ground? That if anyone dares to defy the likes of you, they are guilty of an unforgivable crime. After glorifying yourselves for so long, have you actually begun to believe your own lies? Do you honestly think that when you gently, even with a smile, use chains of law to shackle people's paths and enslave the geniuses of this land, you are demonstrating friendliness? Do you feel that your every action represents orthodoxy and embodies righteousness? Deceiving those ignorant of the truth is one thing, but have you actually deluded yourselves as well, so immersed in your own fantasy that you've lost touch with reality? Clearly, the two teams could no longer afford to look down on the youth before them with condescending friendliness. In their eyes, the figure beneath the yellow canopy umbrella now radiated extreme danger. Merge the two formations. Find a way to suppress him for a moment and send someone to deliver the message, the group communicated telepathically. Time was running out, any delay would put them in grave peril. Most critically, the night void was rapidly weakening the Tao imprint on Taiyi's body. If this continued, it would soon vanish entirely. The yellow canopy umbrella had already warned Qin Ming that as he fought, the flow of spiritual substance would intertwine with the Tao resonance within the night void, gradually dimming the imprint on his body. Clang! A sword soared through the air like a comet streaking across the night sky. Qinming's nine-colored sword qi coalesced into a single, dazzling strike, violently cleaving into the enemy's formation. In an instant, formation flags shattered, and screams erupted as several individuals were cleaved in two. Then, amidst a series of wet thuds, heads began to fly one after another. The primordial chaos sword qi, unmatched in sharpness and invulnerability, exploited a gap in the formation, unleashing a relentless slaughter. Deploy the law chains to reinforce the formation. Someone shouted. They still possessed two law chains and one Dao chain, but now dared not use them to bind Qinming. His possession of a supreme treasure, once thought to be merely tarnished, now served as an impenetrable defense, forcing them to use the chains solely for self-preservation. The formation stabilized, its two types of formation flags merging to emit an even more dazzling light. Runes flickered like stars scattered across the night sky. Charge! They launched a preemptive strike, channeling the formation's power. Within it, a cacophony of 10,000 swords rang out as the runes enhanced their weapons, causing them to clang and resonate with metallic fervor. A rabble. Qinming countered, his nine-colored sword qi soaring skyward before plunging down from the depths of the night mist like a meteor striking the earth. The accumulated force was terrifying. At this moment, many couldn't help but recall the legend of one sword to cleave through the 36 heavens. Even the Third Realm's former top ranker had only fused 8 types of sword qi. Yet this man had actually achieved the ninefold perfection stage, a feat akin to the reincarnation of a peerless divine being in the domain of sword cultivation, a living myth. It was becoming increasingly clear to many that he was likely the other top ranker, one sword. Tai, Jingji Pai, and one sword, to think they were all the same person. If this truth were to spread, it would shake the world and alarm even the beings dwelling in the heavens above. It was truly a revelation too astonishing to fathom. 3 top-ranked figures, each reigning supreme in their respective domains, were in fact a single individual. It left many feeling as though they were trapped in a surreal dream. This was the very reason for their stunned silence moments earlier. They had been utterly awestruck, and momentarily paralyzed, by the truth they had surmised. However, they chose not to voice their discovery aloud. Even knowing that the 3 figures shared a common origin, that they were all one and the same person, was irrelevant at this moment. Their priority now was simply to survive this ordeal. Everything else could wait until they had made it out alive. With a whoosh, several figures scattered, fleeing in different directions, desperate to escape the night void and deliver their message. Run! Their faces paled as they realized they were now exposed to the night void's chaotic Dao resonance without the protection of the formation. Some couldn't withstand the onslaught. Qinming's primordial chaos sword qi erupted in a 9-colored radiance, its divine and dazzling light instantly streaking forth like a celestial being trailing a shower of luminous rain. It mercilessly slaughtered those attempting to escape. Now's our chance. Subdue him quickly. Shen Wei, Yu Botao, and the others roared in unison. They had all recognized that the primordial chaos sword qi was formed from the fusion of heavenly light and sacred demonic essence, draining the youth's very essence. This was the perfect moment to strike. Their eyes bloodshot with murderous intent, the glowing formation enveloped Qinming. Swords and blades rang out in unison as everyone attacked with full force, desperate to kill him immediately. The yellow canopy umbrella rotated slowly, shielding against the encroaching law chains and Dao chains. A faint smile played on Qinming's lips as his dark, lustrous hair billowed around him. He faced his enemies barehanded, leaving the crowd utterly stunned. Without the radiant heavenly light, how could Taiyi's body still possess such terrifying power? Even an immortal physical body cultivator required heavenly light, sacred demonic essence, and other protective forces to shield themselves. Qinming clamped his hands around Shen Wei's descending halberd, twisted sharply, and with a crack, the blade snapped in two. He surged forward like a phantom, his fist slamming into Shen Wei's chest with a thunderous boom. The impact shattered her protective immortal light, and pure yang power erupted from her forehead, detonating violently. Qinming pressed his attack, his second punch shattering her right arm. The wound spread rapidly, tearing through her shoulder and ripping open her chest, sending blood splattering. Shen Wei screamed in agony, her entire body drenched in blood as she was sent flying backward. The crowd recoiled in horror. What kind of overwhelmingly powerful physical body cultivator was this? Qinming's barehanded attack had destroyed half of Shen Wei's body. She staggered, her bones cracking and snapping with each step. How is he doing this? Even seasoned veterans were baffled. Without using heavenly light or sacred demonic essence, how could his physical body achieve such devastation? Qinming had mastered the physical body refinement harmonizing with the Tao scripture to an extraordinary degree, its power rivaling even his heavenly light-enhanced state. If one cultivated this true scripture to its highest level, they could slay gods with their physical body alone. Moreover, Qinming had also comprehended the ultimate golden body, reaping immense benefits. Even when fighting with his bare hands, he moved like a tiger descending from the mountains or a true dragon diving from the cloud realm. As Shen Wei retreated, dragging her battered body, Qinming moved with the ethereal grace of a divine demon crossing the abyss. He left behind a trail of afterimages, rendering the attacks of those around him utterly ineffective. Shen Wei's red lips parted, but it was too late. With a thunderous crack, Qinming's fist struck her body. The woman, renowned for both her innate talent and beauty across the 9 heavens, instantly exploded into fragments. I told you, you're nothing but shattered bones beneath my fist. What superiority complex are you flaunting? Qinming declared. As he spoke, he continued to strike in rapid succession. One after another, the people surrounding him exploded into bloody fragments. Unleashing his full power without restraint, he was even more terrifying than he had been on the sword duel platform in the heavens. Like a young divine demon incarnate, he swept through his enemies with overwhelming force. Within the formation, the group descended into chaos. Just moments ago, they had believed they had seized an opportunity to deliver a fatal blow to this fiend, only to unleash a bloody catastrophe upon themselves. The yellow canopy umbrella greedily absorbed the drifting consciousness spiritual lights, utterly satisfied. Some pure yang consciousness spiritual lights had previously required Qinming to shatter their hosts multiple times to completely obliterate them, much like how Cao Qianzhou's repeated self-destruction had only managed to erode 60% of his power. But now, with the yellow canopy umbrella's assistance, Qinming merely needed to shatter their physical bodies and force out their consciousness spiritual lights. Old Huang would handle the rest. The man and the umbrella worked together seamlessly, their synergy bordering on telepathic. In high spirits, the yellow canopy umbrella demonstrated its sincerity by drawing crimson blood chi from the shattered corpses and azure light from the blue fire spring in the sea. When these fused, they instantly transformed into a deep purple. Purple chi from the east, divine, wouldn't you say? It inquired. The stench of blood is nauseating. Qinming retorted, unimpressed. This purple aura made him look like a rampaging great demon, hardly divine. With a thunderous rumble, the yellow canopy umbrella unleashed a torrent of purple mist, its radiance intensifying. Though the deep purple fog bordered on black, it was undeniably more brilliant and serene than before. You dare oppose the orthodox lineage of Jade Capital, you cannot escape the reckoning of the heavenly beings. Yu Botao's voice was icy, his heart seething with rage. In ancient times, men like him would have been considered divine warriors descended from the heavens, yet they were being slaughtered by demons from the earth, facing complete annihilation. Qinming struck out with a palm, obliterating half of Yu Botao's body. Blood mist and shattered bone erupted into the air as the old man, resembling a silver-maned lion, roared in agony. His essence, qi, and spirit burned fiercely, and his pure yang consciousness detached from his body, transforming into an immortal sword that slashed at Qinming's physical form. Undaunted, Qinming seized the sword barehanded. Despite the immortal sword's dazzling display of 5-colored divine light and its radiant runes, it couldn't break free. With a final crushing grip, Qinming shattered it into fragments. Despair washed over Yu Botao. What terrifying monster was this? Even if the Jade Capital were at the zenith of its power, this individual would likely still rank among its most elite core disciples. With a resounding bang, his physical body was obliterated by a single kick from Qinming. At that very moment, the 9-colored sword Qi returned, having slaughtered the fleeing survivors in the distance within a single breath's time. In this moment, Qinming was like a tiger among sheep, his divine might unstoppable. Wherever his sword light flashed, heads rolled. Invincible in every direction, his spiritual domain expanded, tearing apart anyone who dared stand in his path. It was a battle without suspense. In the end, both teams, numbering over 50 individuals in total, were ultimately annihilated. The single Dao chain and the 2 law chains that had been bound within the formation, desperately unleashed by those doomed souls in their final moments, had now all become new markings etched upon the yellow silk canopy. After clearing the battlefield, Qinming carefully examined his own condition. Old Huang informed him that the Dao imprint had dimmed considerably. Through this battle, having witnessed firsthand that Qinming had successfully refined 9 distinct types of sacred demonic essence, and having glimpsed the true depth of his underlying power, Old Huang's attitude underwent a distinct shift. It no longer remained aloof and indifferent, its tone becoming much more cordial during their exchanges. The main reason for this change was sheer astonishment. Qinming was an immortal physical body cultivator who defied common sense, a sword cultivator who had achieved the rare state of ninefold perfection. Furthermore, Qinming had previously demonstrated the manifestation of a divine pure land. In every single path he pursued, he possessed a foundation of power that allowed him to look down upon all his peers. The myriad gods' banner pondered that even within its own vast cultivation civilization, this youth would rise like the chosen of heaven emerging from the black mist. Looking at the cultivation system, it knew, during its most glorious era, this young man's innate talent would likely rival that of legendary Dao children. Wanzher. Qin addressed it. The yellow canopy umbrella snapped back to attention, retorting, "What did you call this venerable one?" Had it not been so utterly weakened, the yellow canopy umbrella would have retorted fiercely, "This old lady's done serving you. I'll banish you to the myriad gods' banner." As a renowned demonic treasure, it cared little for geniuses or anomalies. Cooperation was fine if it suited them, otherwise, they'd part ways and fight to the death. Qin ventured deeper into the night void, but he dared not go too far. His understanding of this world was limited, and he feared encountering unforeseen dangers. In fact, the yellow canopy umbrella itself had repeatedly warned him that the night void was unfathomable, harboring immense terrors, and should not be mistaken for a safe haven. High above in the nine heavens, within a jade palace shrouded in immortal mist, an old monster set down his teacup and remarked, "It's been quite some time. Why haven't those people returned yet?" Beside him, an earth immortal replied, "Tai and Jingji Pai are manageable, but the real trouble lies with those old bastards on the ground. They pay lip service to cooperation while secretly digging in their heels. They appear harmonious on the surface, but their resolve runs deep." The most pressing issue now was that those with high cultivation were suffering the most severe illnesses. Even Grand Masters had begun to lie low, reluctant to act rashly. After descending to the ground as clones, the Earth Immortals visited the high command of each faction. It took merely 2 or 3 days for their pure yang consciousness, the very essence of their seventh realm cultivation, to be eroded, leaving them with grave injuries. The great environment was undergoing drastic changes that were altering the Tao resonance. With the night void approaching, the true nature of the world was being revealed. The higher one's cultivation level, the more severe the repercussions became. This was precisely why the old factions were so desperate to seal off the heavens. They needed to carve out a pure land, nurturing themselves with great fortune substances to gradually adapt to the shifting cosmic order. Once the great nirvana had passed, they would then forcefully reopen the heavens. The top-ranked figures of the 5th and 6th realms, it is by no means certain that we will be able to summon them here, an elder remarked. Most critically, those top-ranked individuals appeared to possess means of concealing their true identities. The information the Earth Immortals had managed to extract from the new rankings remained limited, and their investigations were still ongoing. At present, we can confirm with absolute certainty regarding Tai and the Jingji Pai, they are truly young individuals. This was precisely why the old monsters placed such high value on these two top-ranked figures. No outcome could have been more ideal. Once these youthful top-ranked figures were bestowed with the Tao chains, and subsequently groomed from a young age, they would prove to be both reliable and secure assets, ready to be utilized by the old factions in the future. It was for this reason that, while sipping their tea, the elders had mentioned them repeatedly, eager to meet them as soon as possible. One old monster declared, "Even the new ranking has acknowledged Tai and Jingji Pai. They must be core saint-level individuals. Let us await their ascension. From now on, the dragon transformation pool will house 2 more true dragons. Are all the top-ranked figures absent? Has not a single one arrived yet?" A young man bathed in immortal radiance approached, a golden rune mark etched between his brows. He addressed one of the Earth Immortals as founding ancestor, a clear indication of the old monster's favor, granting him free access to this sacred place. "I shall go and take a look at Tai myself," the young man said with a smile, his presence like standing amidst the dawn's glow. His crystalline hair shimmered, and his handsome face radiated a divine light. Meanwhile, within the night void, Qin had just emerged from yet another battle. An enigmatic patrol squad, numbering over a dozen individuals, had tracked him down, only to be completely annihilated by his hand. "Almost there," he muttered, estimating the time. "The Tao imprint is about to fade." Once the imprint vanished, he would finally shed his identity as the top-ranked figure on the new ranking. He felt that the new ranking had likely aided him. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to keep his identities, such as Tai and Jingji Pai, separate, ensuring they did not overlap with his true identity, Qin. Each persona appeared to operate entirely independently. In the Jade Palace above the 9 heavens, a young man with a golden symbol between his brows, Qi Daojun, yearned to descend to the mortal realm. He wished to witness the customs and traditions beneath the heavens and, incidentally, investigate why Tai had yet to be summoned. An elder spoke earnestly, "Daojun, the great environment has changed. The night void draws near, and the true world is unveiling its secrets, slipping beyond our control. As a blazing sun of the heavens, you must remain steadfast. Endure these dark times before revealing yourself to the world. Qi Daojun quickly bowed respectfully. This disciple has no intention of competing with Tai. I merely wish to contribute by joining a patrol team on the ground. The elder nodded. In the future, those of you with the potential to become blazing suns must maintain harmonious relations with figures like Tai and Jingji Pai. You are destined to walk the same path for a very long time to come. Beside them, an ancient entity, a great monster, also chuckled and added, in the days ahead, you must advance hand in hand. Qi Daojun smiled in agreement. To put it politely, Tai, Jingji Pai, and others required his courteous treatment. To put it bluntly, the exceptionally talented individuals on the ground were merely the right-hand men of blazing suns like himself. To put it even more bluntly, the naturally gifted on the ground would all be used by them, mere recruited subordinates and followers. Once bestowed with the Dao chain, how could they dare disobey? Not long thereafter, Qi Daojun departed the Jade Palace. Even with heaven sealing, the competition among us remains fierce, he murmured to himself. He wasn't the only one aspiring to become a blazing sun. With the revival of the old factions under Jade Capital's jurisdiction, which lineage lacked a young leader at its helm. In the end, he stood on a golden wooden ship, silently sailing away to descend upon the mortal realm. In the night void, by the seaside, Qinming felt a faint warmth rising within his body. During his recultivation of the silk book technique, his body had shattered twice. After recovering, he sensed a vibrant life force gestating within him, accumulating the power of awakening. Now, after a series of battles and absorbing the Dao resonance of this outer realm, the signs of awakening grew increasingly pronounced. He felt as though he was about to undergo nirvana, his cultivation realm poised for advancement. Different worlds possess distinct Dao resonances, which can harm intruders. In severe cases, this can lead to physical depletion and a drastic decline in cultivation. Qinming had long adapted to the night void. He had previously secluded himself here to comprehend the sea overturning manual and had slain the Jade Emperor and Yun Shuyu, the princess of the Sea Clan. This place is far enough from the sea where I fought them last time. Hopefully, I won't alert that mysterious heavenly maiden. According to the Sea Clan natives of the Night Void, the heavenly maiden might have descended from the 30 heavens or higher. During the ancient wars, she had fallen into the East Sea, near death, and remained frozen until awakening in this era. Does the Night Void truly have 36 heavens? Qinming murmured, gazing upward. He found a secluded beach, sat in meditation, and activated the silk book technique. The primordial chaos force surged around him, and the nine-colored sacred chi light flowed, radiating divine sanctity. His body grew increasingly hot as he awaited the momentous awakening. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 462, Nirvana and Breakthrough, 2 chapters combined. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The sea of night mist churned violently. Amidst the terrifying gale winds that could scatter consciousness' spiritual light, a golden wooden ship pierced through the thick layers of clouds, plunging toward the earth below. The ground is like an abyss, Qi Daojun murmured, standing at the ship's prow and gazing down. The cities scattered across the pitch-black landscape resembled fireflies dotting the darkness. Overall, 90% of the land lay in absolute darkness, devoid of light, barren, and lifeless. The unknown and inky blackness had become eternal. Qi Daojun retrieved his silver-spotted conch shell and used it to send a message. Senior brother Xie, where are you? Having arrived on the ground, he had a clear objective. I'm currently in the beyond the mortal realm. There are truly astonishing immortal seeds here. You can come here, it's not far from your location, a young man replied instantly through the silver-spotted conch shell. His name was Xie Jinglan, also from the celestial realm. He appeared slightly sickly, with a hint of world weariness in his eyes, prematurely aged, with strands of white hair already framing his temples. Senior brother Xie, I need your assistance, Qi Daojun said. Despite his exceptional innate talent and profound cultivation, he was inherently cautious. Upon arriving on the ground, he immediately sought out a powerful ally. Rumor had it that Xie Jinglan had once stood on the very threshold of the Grandmaster realm, only to suffer a catastrophic mishap that, for reasons unknown, crippled his cultivation. After decades spent in stagnation and obscurity, he had started his journey anew from scratch. Now, having once again attained the Tao, he was a man who could no longer be measured solely by the conventional standards of cultivation realms. Had he not exceeded the age limit, he would undoubtedly have been considered a blazing sun of this generation. However, if he were to reach the Grandmaster level within the next decade, he would still be considered young. Qi Daojun shared an extraordinary bond with him, seeking his assistance immediately upon arriving on the surface. Upon learning Qi Daojun's goal, Xie Jinglan frowned slightly. You want to challenge Tai. He holds the top spot on the ranking. Once he ascends to the heavens, countless eyes will be upon him. Then, he whispered earnestly, come to the Pure Land. We have an innate fire physique who has never revealed his full potential on the sword duel platform, his foundation is terrifyingly deep. We also have a heaven-blessed prodigy who secretly mastered the heavenly tome. Qi Daojun's voice turned somber. Senior brother, the competition for the great Dao is ruthless. I must seize the initiative. Neither of us is a descendant of Earth immortals. I fear following your old path, so I want to strike first. At present, although he enjoyed the favor of certain old monsters, he held no distinct advantage in the long run. With the resurgence of the various ancient power bases, which of the young leaders from the different factions did not possess a background of astonishing magnitude? Xie Jinglan warned, it's said that Tai, the top-ranked contender, possesses the potential to become one of the Jade Capital's core saints. He's bound to attract a lot of attention. Qi Daojun replied, I merely wish to make discreet contact with him, I have no intention of taking any excessive or drastic measures. Xie Jinglan was startled, his voice betraying his shock. He asked, you have been privately studying that forbidden secret manual. Surely you aren't planning to make use of it. Senior brother, I have no other choice. Qi Daojun glowed from head to toe, his refined demeanor resembling someone bathed in the morning sun. Yet beneath this gentle facade lay a surprisingly radical nature. People often say the great Dao is impartial, treating all equally. But Qi Daojun saw it differently. He believed those born into privilege had already gained an unfair advantage. This time, he intended to enter the game early. Soon after, Qi Daojun and Xie Jinglan met again. Upon hearing that some immortal seeds on the ground possessed exotic metal weapons capable of liquid transformation, Qi Daojun's interest was piqued. Unfortunately, he couldn't meet the true master behind them. Someone has comprehended the Golden Palace Jade Scripture, Xie Jinglan mentioned. This true scripture is notoriously difficult to master even in the 9 heavens. Once achieved, one's form and spirit will continuously transform, undergoing multiple nirvanas. Xie Jinglan also mentioned Kui Chong, though they hadn't encountered him. Rumor had it that Kui Chong, with the aid of his master son Taichu, was undergoing a special secluded cultivation within a yin-yang furnace, refining himself like a great medicine. Clearly, some immortal seeds and divine seeds had already been targeted, but each was backed by a founding ancestor, so the celestial envoys were currently doing no more than attempting to win them over. If the Earth immortal old monsters from the heavens abandoned their diplomatic efforts and instead clashed with the high command of the various earthly factions, then the entire situation would take a drastically different turn. That is Cao Tiān, an unruly and defiant character whose background is anything but simple. Xie Jinglan advised Qi Daojun not to fixate solely on the top-ranked individual. There were other heaven-blessed prodigies worth recruiting, and the old factions were already secretly making contact with them. Little Tathagata, hailed as the core disciple of the Chaos Forces orthodox lineage, is truly extraordinary. Qin Ming, though from a collateral branch, has gained considerable renown. Qi Daojun couldn't help but interrupt, senior brother, time is running out. If I don't find Tai soon, he might be summoned to the heavens. You are far too impatient for quick results, Xie Jinglan sighed. Qi Daojun's voice turned hoarse. Though I now stand in the ancestor's favor, bathed in his radiant aura, the future remains uncertain. Those of us who don't compete will never reach the inner circle. I have no choice. By now, Xie Jinglan said, Tai should have ascended to the heavens. No, not yet, senior brother, Qi Daojun pleaded. Please lend me your strength. In the current great environment, where even grandmasters hesitated to act rashly, senior brother Xie might be the key to achieving his grand ambition. Xie Jinglan finally nodded. Very well. I'll lead a team to accompany you on this journey. His team primarily focused on persuading major sects and great sects. They wouldn't resort to violence unless the high command turned hostile. Now, the group quietly set off into the distance. Even before reaching the descent point, Qi Daojun had already obtained Tai's unique Dao imprint, allowing them to track him using an exotic treasure. They also learned some basic information. Tai was a rogue cultivator, relatively young, and of modest cultivation realm. The new ranking is unfathomable, someone marveled along the way. It hangs high in the heavens, yet knows everything that happens below. The team itself was small in number, comprising a total of only a dozen or so individuals. Qi Daojun wanted to retort that the new ranking had roamed the world, even raiding the medicinal fields of Earth immortals. How could it not know such things? He's entered the night void. As they approached Gengjin City, they realized Tai's final destination. No wonder the previous team had failed to find him. By the sea, Qin Ming had already risen and was practicing his swordsmanship against the crashing waves, seeking to enhance his body's vitality and undergo a profound awakening. This was destined to be different from his past trials. In the Night Void, a realm with a distinct Tao resonance, the impact on his body would be far greater. If he succeeded, he could henceforth be considered, in a sense, half a native of the Night Void. Compared to my progress back in Night Prefecture, things are moving a bit slower, and the difficulty has increased, Qinming remarked with a frown. With a single slash, he cleaved the sea in two, causing dozens of massive waves to explode into a sky-filling mist under the force of his sword qi, resembling surging immortal qi. The yellow canopy umbrella vibrated. The greater the world's transformation, the more intense the clash of Tao resonances. You've entered a new great environment, so naturally, breaking through here will be far more challenging. It then added that this was actually a good thing. In ancient times, the most formidable cultivators often traveled extensively through various civilizations. Those rare prodigies who could withstand the clash of different Tao resonance systems were considered to be of the highest caliber. Hearing this, Qinming's spirit soared. He circulated the sea overturning manual, unleashing a single, sweeping strike that sent 9-colored sword light and towering waves surging across the night sky. The churning night mist was shattered, and the entire sky blazed with radiant sword light. Qinming swung his sword, his body already burning hot. Waves of sword qi surged forth, causing the seawater to flow upward in reverse, cascading into the sky in a terrifying spectacle. In that moment, he felt his body, hunger, a craving to consume the very Tao rhythms of the Night Void realm. Qinming allowed the spiritual substance within him to transform, absorbing new Tao resonance to adapt to this strange world. Not enough, he muttered. The accumulation of old Tao resonance is too deep. To fully adapt to the Night Void and achieve even a small measure of satisfaction, I need to replace some of my original Tao resonance. I need to find a place of exceptional spiritual potency. Ultimately, Qinming plunged into the sea, seeking a blue super fire spring, a place brimming with spiritual energy, where it would be easier to draw upon the invisible Tao resonance of heaven and earth. Moreover, he felt it best to complete his awakening before nightfall. After all, this world was profoundly eerie. As darkness deepened, coffins and tombstones would rise and fall with the waves, accompanied by children's laughter. The sky itself might weep blood, and severed heads would rain down from above. Having mastered the sea overturning manual, Qinming moved through the ocean as effortlessly as walking on land. Deafening waves crashed around him, yet he remained steady as if treading solid ground, sinking deeper into the abyss. He followed the faint glow of light, drawn to the blue fire springs churning beneath the seabed. The underwater world was surprisingly well lit. Qinming naturally sought a top-tier fire spring, but he knew such places were inevitably claimed. He had no desire to provoke dangerous creatures and hoped to find a secluded spot nearby to meditate. The underwater world was far from the monotonous realm Qinming had imagined. It was a vibrant, dazzling spectacle, filled with coral palaces, fishbone temples, turtle shell palaces, and more. Multicolored coral and luminous golden pearls adorned the seabed, showcasing a wealth of rare treasures that embellished the palaces of the Sea Clan, creating a breathtaking sight. A Grandmaster's residence. Best not to provoke them. Qinming spotted a structure composed of massive turtle shells, where rare spiritual medicines grew in a high-tier blue fire spring. He could only gaze longingly before steering clear, completely leaving that stretch of sea. Finally, Qinming arrived near a cluster of underwater volcanoes. Here, super fire springs occasionally erupted with terrifying fire-sacred demonic essence from the earth's depths, deterring most sea monsters from venturing near. Though deep beneath the sea, the area was surprisingly bright. In some spots, crimson fire-sacred demonic essence surged, boiling the seawater, while in others, blue fire springs gurgled, their waters shimmering like countless blue diamonds refracting light in a dazzling display. A perfect place. Qinming was satisfied. This was the secluded place he needed for his meditation. He wouldn't need to stay long, half a day at most would suffice. This spiritual land pulsed with a rich Tao resonance, precisely what Qinming craved most. There are plants in this underwater volcano. Qinming murmured in surprise. Crimson lotuses bloomed in abundance, completely unscathed by the scorching fire-sacred demonic essence. In fact, the intense heat seemed to nourish their growth, forming a vast, vibrant field. Undoubtedly, these were spiritual medicines, though of little use to Qinming in the fourth realm. Too bad there are no millennium red lotuses here. Those precious medicines are as rare as they are powerful, Qinming sighed, shaking his head. He plucked a few lotus pods, extracted the fiery red seeds, and tasted a few. Settling into a meditative posture at the boundary between the fire-sacred demonic essence and the blue fire spring, Qinming quietly meditated, absorbing the concentrated Tao resonance. His body grew increasingly hot, his vitality surging as he entered the initial stages of awakening. His physical form was on the verge of transformation. In this crimson-blue convergence zone, the fire-sacred demonic essence burned fiercely on one side, while the fire spring merged with the deep sea, its icy chill penetrating to the bone, a perfect embodiment of the yin-yang cycle. The fire spring in the night void is surprisingly cold, unlike the warm springs of Night Province, Qinming observed. He noticed how the scarlet and icy blue energies intertwined, the terrain truly resembling a yin-yang diagram. Activating the black-white scripture, Qinming found that absorbing the Tao resonance flowed even more smoothly, perfectly attuned to the land's unique configuration. Moreover, the Tao resonance within his body was undergoing a transformation, with some parts being replaced. As he refined it using the black-white scripture, the two types of Tao resonance gradually formed a Taiji diagram, becoming increasingly harmonious and intertwining in near-perfect balance. And at this very moment, his metamorphosis began. His body burned like a red-hot iron, terrifyingly scalding. The vitality of his flesh and blood surged dramatically, and within him, the nascent form of the heart lamp materialized, growing ever brighter. The human body possesses 3 clusters of life fire, located on the left and right shoulders and above the crown of the head. Once the heart lamp coalesces, these 3 clusters merge into one, like a bright lamp suspended high above. From then on, the physical form and spirit fuse, purifying the spirit and baptizing the fleshly body. This process dusts away the impurities of the heart and illuminates the path of Tao ahead. Qinming refined his physical form and spirit using the black-white scripture, merging them into a unified whole. Simultaneously, he harmonized the disparate Tao resonances, blending them into perfect synergy. His flesh and spirit were both undergoing transformation, and the heart lamp grew increasingly radiant. If I were to travel to other civilizations and absorb more Tao resonances into my body, would the current balance be disrupted? Qinming pondered. The answer was obvious: a new equilibrium would need to be established. He suddenly realized that this aligned perfectly with his silk book technique, which not only blended various energies but would also later integrate diverse Tao resonances, aligning with the scripture's core principles. Qinming grew increasingly convinced that choosing this technique as his fundamental scripture was the most suitable path for his future. Divine light radiated from his body, making him appear translucent. He had absorbed enough Tao resonance that he could leave this place without issue. Moreover, as the Tao resonance continued to circulate and replace portions of his spiritual substance, the Tao imprint within him grew increasingly faint, on the verge of vanishing completely. Qinming breathed a sigh of relief. His awakening had accelerated, and with his body now brimming with Tao resonance, it would no longer be interrupted. He observed the heart lamp, still in its nurturing stage. When he later made a breakthrough in his cultivation, he could fuse it with various true fires, such as the 6 Ding divine fire or the Nanming blazing fire. If he could acquire another true fire, he could attempt to merge it with the heart lamp, strengthening the foundation of the 3 life fires within. Afterward, should the heart lamp fully blossom, it could manifest various divine phenomena, transforming into tangible objects and more. If all went well, the possibilities would be wondrous beyond words. Suddenly, Qinming sensed a colossal presence approaching silently. It was a flood dragon, but with a shrimp-like head and a body that glowed with a blue nether light, interspersed with scattered crimson scales. It was watching him intently. A creature of the 4th realm, Qinming realized, its true form should be a lobster, but it has now become a shrimp dragon. He suspected this shrimp dragon might reside in this very place. Fellow Taoist, the shrimp dragon called out softly. A single horn protruded from its shrimp-like head, marking its transformation into a true flood dragon, akin to a carp leaping over the dragon gate. Could this be your abode, fellow Taoist? Qinming asked. The shrimp dragon shook its head. Not exactly. I once consumed several dragon transformation grasses in the earth fire spring here, and I've grown fond of this place. I occasionally come here for short stays. Qinming knew that super fire springs could nurture rare spiritual medicines. He had searched this very spring not long ago but found nothing. He never imagined this shrimp dragon had obtained such great fortune. Fellow Taoist, are you here for secluded cultivation? The shrimp dragon asked. If so, I won't disturb you. Qinming was surprised. He had expected conflict, but the shrimp dragon was remarkably polite, showing no signs of aggression. I'll be leaving soon, Qinming assured it. I won't be staying long and won't encroach on your territory. The shrimp dragon said, I have no intention of driving you away, fellow Taoist. Please continue your secluded cultivation undisturbed. I came here seeking to forge a karmic bond. A cave abode left by a great power has recently been discovered in the depths of the sea, and I wish to invite you to join me in exploring it. Qinming was stunned. He had merely entered seclusion, yet such an opportunity had presented itself. Fellow Taoist, you need not doubt my sincerity. Many Sea clan creatures in the vicinity are already aware of this cave abode. It is protected by numerous formidable restrictions that can only be overcome through a collaborative effort. Therefore, I wish to invite you to join us. Without lingering, the shrimp dragon left behind a map and swam into the deep sea. Before departing, it informed Qin Ming that if he was interested, he could proceed directly to the location upon emerging from seclusion. Opening the cave abode of a great power. Could they be planning to use this as cannon fodder? Qin Ming couldn't help but wonder. However, he couldn't afford to dwell on such concerns at the moment. His awakening process was accelerating, growing increasingly intense. Soon after, Qin Ming switched to the silk book technique. Golden threads wove around his body, and jade light shimmered, as if he were clad in sacred armor. Within his flesh and blood, the awakening process raged, accompanied by the fragrant scent of medicinal herbs. By channeling the silk book technique to govern his meridians, he was essentially refining a great elixir of flesh and blood. Qin Ming was undergoing the great nirvana, his heart lamp flickering between dimness and brilliance as his flesh and spirit continuously merged, surging with vibrant life force. On the sea's surface, a golden wooden ship cut through the waves, carrying Qi Daojun, Xie Jinglan, and their followers. The Dao imprint is weakening rapidly. Is he undergoing a nourishment of new Dao resonance in the night void, trying to erase the imprint? We must find him quickly. He's close now. He's right ahead. And it seems he's underwater. A blazing sun-like radiance erupted from the seabed, causing the volcanic region to surge with crimson fire sacred demonic essence. Qin Ming rose to his feet, his brow furrowed. Uninvited guests had arrived. Fellow Taoist, are you Tai? Forgive us for accidentally trespassing into this volcanic cluster and disturbing you, Xie Jinglan said. Having tracked him here and sensed the Dao imprint on Qin Ming, they had confirmed his identity. Who are you? Qin Ming asked calmly. We come from the nine heavens, Qi Daojun and Xie Jinglan announced their names. Where are Zhang Yan and Shen Wei? Qi Daojun asked. They've gone to the deep sea. An ancient great power's cave abode has appeared there, and they want to join the competition, Qin Ming replied. Damn it, those two are likely in grave danger, Xie Jinglan murmured telepathically. The group knew all too well that Zhang Yan and Shen Wei wouldn't recklessly explore the perilous night void on their own. The odds were stacked against them. They concluded that this Tai was no pushover. In an instant, they attacked, seizing the initiative. Any pretense or words were meaningless now. This man had stained his hands with the blood of a heavenly being, words alone would never suffice. Qin Ming instantly shifted sideways as the spot where he had stood exploded violently. The seawater boiled, and massive fissures tore across the seabed. Qi Daojun, wielding a golden spirit staff, unleashed a terrifying strike that shattered the seabed and triggered a volcanic eruption, causing a massive surge of fire sacred demonic essence. Simultaneously, Xie Jinglan thrust his spear, piercing through the ocean and causing it to explode violently. The night sky became visible as the spear's chilling radiance dispersed the night mist above the sea. Qin Ming, like a phantom of the deep, evaded the attacks multiple times, retreating to a safe distance. His expression revealed shock. These two were truly formidable, especially the latter, whose spear seemed capable of piercing the heavens. His life force is incredibly powerful, Qi Daojun murmured, his pupils contracting. Could he be undergoing a complete nirvana in this outer world? As a true heaven-blessed prodigy, chosen by the old monster himself, Qi Daojun understood better than anyone the immense difficulty of advancing one's cultivation in a realm with a different Dao resonance. Yet the opponent wasn't merely breaking through a bottleneck, his entire being seemed to be undergoing a complete rebirth. This was truly terrifying. Even Xie Jinglan showed astonishment. The heavens and earth are undergoing catastrophic changes, the great environment is becoming increasingly hostile, yet his form and spirit are undergoing nirvana, achieving complete awakening. Does this mean that when the true world draws near, he will remain unfazed, capable of adapting to the great environment's cataclysmic shifts through repeated transformations? The dozen or so followers behind them listened in stunned silence. What kind of terrifying monster were they facing? It was crucial to understand that, apart from Xie Jinglan and Qi Daojun, anyone else entering the night void without the protection of a law chain would struggle greatly, unable to adapt to the Dao resonance here. Qin Ming's voice boomed, you knew I was in the midst of a breakthrough, yet you still launched a sneak attack to obstruct my path, this is a blood feud that cannot go unavenged. Fortunately, he had absorbed enough Dao resonance, and the nirvana process had already begun. It wouldn't be interrupted now. Otherwise, he truly would have gone berserk with rage right now. Even so, the fire raging in his heart couldn't be contained. Their blatant attempt to obstruct his Dao path, without the slightest concealment, demanded a counterattack as swift and devastating as thunder. Qi Daojun said grimly, this Tai is abnormal. He's actually in the fourth realm. The information the ancestor extracted from the new ranking was flawed. Qin Ming's killing intent surged. After thoroughly examining his inner state, he felt completely assured and prepared to unleash his full power. Having broken through his bottleneck and now undergoing nirvana, he grew stronger with each passing moment. With a resounding clang, his pure yang flying sword shot forth. Qi Daojun felt his golden staff tremble violently in his hand, barely managing to block the strike. Glancing down, he discovered the weapon was nearly shattered. He gasped in horror. With a single sword strike, the enemy had nearly destroyed his weapon. In an instant, his body glowed, and the piercing cry of a divine bird echoed across the vast ocean. The entire sea turned golden as he transformed into a terrifying golden crow, not a mere illusion, but a true manifestation descending upon the world. Everyone present, except Xie Jinglin, was stunned, even the dozen or so who had come from the heavens. They realized what had happened. Qi Daojun had mastered the legendary True Spirit Dao scripture. With a single thought, his body could transform into a true spirit from myth and legend, wielding its full power. Now, Qi Daojun had become a fearsome golden crow, wreathed in raging flames that threatened to scorch the entire ocean dry. Xie Jinglin advanced step by step toward Qinming, treading on the sea. The waters parted before him, leaving behind luminous footprints that radiated Dao resonance, their surfaces etched with mystical patterns. The golden crow shrieked, and the boundless sea surged like a breached dam. Towering waves, ablaze with fire, crashed and burned, merging with the ocean to create a terrifying spectacle. As the golden crow spread its wings to strike, unleashing a fiery inferno upon the world, Qinming remained unfazed. He condensed the nine-colored sacred demonic essence into a sword and unleashed a thunderous slash. How is this possible? The dozen or so onlookers behind him were stunned. Even, one sword Yi Jian, the top ranker, had only fused 8 sacred demonic essences. How could this Tai be even stronger? In that instant, they understood. One sword Yi Jian and Tai were the same person, their identities overlapping. Moreover, one sword Yi Jian had been concealing his true strength on the sword duel platform. With a whoosh, the golden crow, which had arrived wreathed in raging heavenly fire, had one of its wings severed by the nine-colored sword Qi. Its bloodied body plummeted, golden feathers stained with blood, scattering across the sea. The onlookers were struck with sheer horror. Perhaps only a cultivator who had achieved the ninefold perfection could wield a single sword strike capable of wounding a legendary true spirit. Unfortunately for Qi Daojun, he had just encountered such a person. Xie Jinglin activated his inner vision, causing a rain of light to cascade around him. He stood like a reincarnated heavenly god, radiant beams of light pouring forth to illuminate all creation. Before him, a heavenly god domain seemed to materialize. Most terrifying of all, a colossal axe materialized within his inner vision, hurtling forth with a thunderous roar to cleave toward Qinming. It was not merely the other onlookers who were shaken to the core. Even Qi Daojun, the very man who had just severed the golden crow's wing, felt his heart quake violently within his chest. He knew some of the truth behind Xie Jinglin's past, his decades of wasted years after being crippled. Back then, Xie Jinglin's downfall hadn't been merely a matter of pride, it was also connected to an immense opportunity. Qi Daojun's mind churned with turmoil. Has senior brother Xie, the crippled one, finally grasped that opportunity? Could this be the embryonic form of the inner vision's heaven-cleaving axe? The nine-colored sword Qi transformed into a stream of light and returned to its source. Qinming activated his own inner vision, directly confronting the colossal axe that seemed poised to split the heavens. Clang! Terrifying divine light erupted like crashing waves, resounding with metallic clashes. The massive axe shuddered violently before being hurled backward. Xie Jinglin lowered his head. The massive axe had dimmed, its blade pitted and chipped with terrifying notches, its handle charred black and nearly burned through. Damn it! He is also the top-ranked cultivator, Jingji Pai. Someone exclaimed in shock. How is this possible? The top-ranked cultivators in all 3 realms are actually the same person. On the golden wooden ship, the dozen or so people froze, unable to believe what they were seeing. Qi Daojun, in particular, was utterly shaken. He alone understood just how formidable senior brother Xie had become after starting his cultivation journey anew. Decades of accumulated insight had allowed Xie Jinglin to touch upon a supreme stroke of cosmic fortune, yet, even he had been defeated. Was the one who held the top spot in all 3 realms truly so far beyond the bounds of ordinary logic? Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 463, A Promising Future, 2 chapters combined. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Tai, possessing extraordinary innate talent, a young rogue cultivator whose current cultivation realm is relatively low, making him a safe and secure candidate for contact. All the information listed above had been personally extracted from the new ranking by an Earth immortal. Yet, the group now trembled in fear. Where was the safety? Everything had changed. Except for his extraordinary innate talent, all other information was severely flawed. His cultivation realm was far from low. Most terrifyingly, he possessed other identities as well, Jingji Pai and the one-sort Yi Jian figures who had both previously topped the new ranking. On the golden wooden ship, alarm surged through the crew. They stealthily raised the sails, and luminous symbols immediately appeared on the hull and canvas as they attempted a swift escape. Suddenly, a pure yang sword light slashed through the night mist, shattering it and cleaving the sea in two, leaving a vast vacuum in its wake as if plowed by a giant blade. Ahead, the newly launched golden wooden ship was cleaved in half. The nine-colored sword chi surged past, leaving two smooth-cut sections of the ship sinking into the ocean. With a single strike, Qinming had severed the retreat of the dozen cultivators, determined to leave no witnesses. The exposure of his triple identities meant he could not afford to let them leak word of his secret. Possessing vast combat experience, Xie Jinglan struck out again with ferocious resolve the very instant the nine-colored sword chi sped away. From within his inner landscape, an axe light flashed forth, shooting out at blinding speed. The colossal axe cleaved through the air, its oppressive force causing the azure sea below to explode in towering waves. Where the axe light passed, it resembled a cascade of thunderbolts, dazzlingly brilliant and deafeningly loud. Qinming's spiritual domain materialized around him, distorting space and instantly slowing the heaven-opening axe's momentum. Visible ripples of energy met the axe's descent, halting its earth-shattering force. Xie Jinglan's pupils contracted. Even after releasing the nine-colored sword chi, his opponent remained overwhelmingly powerful, wielding methods truly extraordinary. Using his spiritual domain to decelerate the axe, Qinming then met it head-on with his bare hands. This was the result of his successful cultivation of the body refinement harmonizing with the Tao scripture, further enhanced by recent insights from the ultimate golden body. His physical constitution had become terrifyingly formidable. In the night sky, the axe light surged like a tempestuous sea, accompanied by flashes of lightning and deafening thunder. Qinming's hands glowed with a crystalline luster, as if forged from exotic metal. As they struck the axe, metallic clangs echoed through the air, revealing a dense network of runes interwoven within his flesh and blood. Could the bodies of immortal physical body cultivators truly reach such a level of strength? The dozen or so onlookers near the shattered wooden ship stared in disbelief. Simultaneously, Qinming's spiritual domain expanded, its tangible patterns weaving like a heavenly god's spiderweb, layer upon layer, binding the giant axe in an attempt to capture it. Xie Jinglan charged forward, his inner vision roaring with power. A massive surge of divine light erupted from within him, radiating with extraordinary brilliance as it reinforced the giant axe, preparing to cleave his opponent in two. The wing-broken golden crow, Qi Daojun, refused to withdraw from the battle. With a piercing cry, he not only mended his severed wing but underwent a dramatic transformation. Though flames still raged, the golden crow vanished, replaced by a phoenix bathed in the light of nirvana. Its severed wing had regrown, fully restored. With a triumphant shriek, the phoenix seized the opportune moment and swooped down toward Qinming. A layer of black qi, mingled with dazzling flames, blanketed the sky as it cascaded down upon Qinming. While the phoenix could be reborn through nirvana, this rebirth also generated vast amounts of death qi. Now, this black qi had become a terrifying weapon against its opponent. In the night sky, it was as if a blazing sun had been corrupted by black smoke, hurtling toward Qinming. In an instant, Qinming's spiritual domain was dyed black, but the encroaching black mist and flames were torn apart by the heavenly demon domain and crushed by the Sumeru domain. The nine-colored sword chi returned, and Qinming's entire body glowed. Sword chi surged from his fingertips, allowing him to face the giant axe with far greater composure. He reached out with his bare hand to grasp the razor-sharp, lightning-infused axe. Nine-colored spiritual light erupted from his fingertips, the fused sacred demonic essence energy coalescing into strands as fine as silk, yet terrifyingly powerful. Xie Jinglan sensed that something was amiss, a sharp crack rang out from the axe blade, and yet another chip appeared in its edge. His inner world roared to life as the giant axe transformed into a stream of light, coalescing and dispersing without form. No longer a solid object, it reversed its trajectory and hurtled back toward him. Qinming stomped his foot, shattering the sea surface with a thunderous boom. A massive crater, resembling an abyss, appeared in its wake, sending seawater surging in all directions. He soared into the air, briefly taking flight. Between the fingers of his right hand, sacred demonic essence energy materialized into a nine-colored heavenly sword. With a swift slash, he struck at the black mist-shrouded phoenix. Qi Daojun spread his wings, soaring through the heavens in dazzling splendor. He unleashed a radiant immortal light, its interior densely packed with what appeared to be inscribed scripture, which crashed toward his opponent. With a thunderous roar, Qinming cleaved through the dazzling immortal light with a single strike of his sword. Riding the sword like a part of his own body, he tore through the night sky. Thud. The sword struck the divine phoenix, sending blood splattering in all directions. Qi Daojun groaned, feeling his luck had run out. How had he encountered such a formidable opponent? He had transformed into a true spirit from myth and legend. Normally, such beings wouldn't be so easily wounded. Now, the phoenix's right wing was severed, and its right side was riddled with sword wounds, nearly splitting it in two. Blood stained the night mist crimson. It must be said that the true spirit Tao scripture possessed the miraculous power to seize the great fortune of heaven and earth. As one of the supreme true scriptures above the 9 heavens, it truly allowed Qi Daojun to embody the undying nature of the phoenix. The blood-soaked divine bird, radiating the light of nirvana, vanished from its position and reappeared in the distance with a mournful cry. Though its form flickered weakly, it had survived and was reforming. This time, it transformed into a heavenly dragon, its azure scales shimmering with a cold, metallic luster. Coiling through the night sky, it fixed its gaze on Tai, its dragon chi surging forth, terrifying the sea creatures below into trembling submission. He's got some tricks up his sleeve, Qinming remarked. The fact that his opponent had survived a direct clash with his sword light proved his extraordinary skill. The cultivation technique this man practiced must be a supreme technique from the Jade Capital. Yet Qi Daojun felt his opponent was humiliating him. He was indeed deeply humiliated. As a disciple favored by an earth immortal, his strength was exceptional. Yet after encountering this Tai, he had nearly been killed instantly, and every subsequent attack had left him severely wounded. Xie Jinglin stood on the sea surface, his temples streaked with gray and his complexion sickly, while his inner world roared with power. Within his divine pure land, a luminous figure materialized, and the colossal axe reappeared. The luminous figure grasped the axe, radiating a dangerous aura, and strode toward the edge of the inner world, preparing to enter reality. Divine patterns surfaced on Xie Jinglin's skin, as if he were merging with his divine pure land, seeking to fuse with the luminous figure and achieve return to one. Qinming unleashed a single, decisive strike, channeling the heaven-severing sword intent. The horizon blurred into a single line of light as the night sky and the vast ocean seemed to converge into a dazzling sword flash. He didn't underestimate his opponent, whose temples were streaked with white hair. He sensed the man's extraordinary techniques and genuine danger. Xie Jinglin wasn't gathering power. Within his inner vision, the deity wielding the colossal axe had become nearly one with his true body. This transformation occurred in an instant, leaving no time for outsiders to intervene. With a thunderous roar, his chi surged violently. Then, light and shadow completely merged with him as he charged toward his opponent, axe raised high. Tai! He bellowed. You are indeed formidable, but Xie Jinglin is no weakling either. I've endured decades of stagnation, all for this moment, to return to nirvana and claim my place among the strongest. Years ago, he had been utterly crippled. This was partly due to his lineage as a descendant of an earth immortal, but also because he sought to comprehend the heaven-opening axe. By chance, he had gained access to that legendary inheritance. Qinming treated him with the utmost seriousness. Treading upon the surface of the sea, he advanced to meet this formidable adversary. With a clang, the 9-colored sword materialized in his hand, unleashing a torrent of starlight like a celestial river cascading forth. The sacred demonic essence aura it emitted was terrifyingly potent. Xie Jinglin's physical stature visibly expanded. Gripping his massive battle axe, he brought it crashing down. In that instant, towering waves erupted from the sea. The clash of sword and axe unleashed a dense storm of sword chi and axe light that, like 10,000 swords striking simultaneously, shattered the very fabric of the ocean around them. Qinming was astonished. His opponent was truly formidable. The massive axe, blazing like the blazing sun, could match his attacks and posed a deadly threat. In an instant, the two clashed fiercely. Their sword and axe collided 6 times in rapid succession, sword chi tearing through the night sky while axe light cleaved the vast sea. Above and below, the world was a blur of flashing steel and shadow. Xie Jinglin was even more shaken than Qinming. The inheritance he had received rivaled the most profound mystical techniques of the Jade Capital. His inner world had collapsed under the might of the heaven-opening axe, forcing him to rebuild from scratch. Now, having risen anew, he had truly attained enlightenment. Yet here he was, manifesting the very essence of the heaven-opening axe, his cultivation at the mid-4th realm, and still unable to defeat an opponent of a lower realm. His blood surged violently, his arms trembling slightly. The two separated, standing far apart, their eyes locked in a tense standoff. With a whoosh, sword light flashed, and the sea crackled with thunder. Layer upon layer of sword chi expanded outward, each strike as violent and terrifying as a thunderclap. Xie Jinglin gasped. After unleashing 4 consecutive axe strikes, he retreated gracefully. The deep gouges in his axe were alarming, another exchange like that, and the weapon would shatter. Meanwhile, Qinming was undergoing an awakening. His hard lamp burned ever brighter, his body becoming translucent, as if a miniature chosen of heaven blazed within him, radiating light from every pore. His qi was slowly growing stronger. Originally, his hard lamp was only in its nascent form, barely having crossed the threshold of the fourth realm. But after this awakening, the vital energy within his body surged, propelling him to the second heaven of the hard lamp. Upon reaching the fourth realm, even the seeds of the immortal path and esoteric sects would progress slowly. Otherwise, the saying that a 100-year-old Grand Master was still considered young wouldn't exist. Even for heaven-blessed prodigies, many would spend a decade mired in the fourth realm. Qinming was already deeply satisfied with his rapid and explosive breakthrough. Xie Jinglin, wielding his massive axe, waded through the surging sea, his heavy footsteps resonating across the vast ocean, stirring up colossal waves. Simultaneously, a spectral mist emanated from his body, blurring his form. The fourth realm of the esoteric sect granted spiritual communication, allowing one to seemingly walk between reality and illusion. Xie Jinglin took a deep breath and unleashed his most powerful attack. The axe's blade seemed to cleave through eternity as it slashed forward, instantly detonating the sea. At the same moment, Qi Daojun moved. Now in his heavenly dragon form, his colossal draconic body writhed, his peerless physical might perfectly suited for close-quarters combat. The dozen or so others nearby also launched their attacks in unison. They understood that unity was their only hope, individual escape was impossible. They had to join forces to eliminate Tai. In an instant, the sea churned with towering waves. Qinming and Xie Jinglin clashed 3 times, the force of the sword causing Xie Jinglin's arm to spasm, his fingers mangled and bloody, the bones exposed. Meanwhile, Qinming's left hand darted out, repeatedly striking against Qi Daojun's transformed heavenly dragon. High in the night sky, Qi Daojun was deeply shaken. Qinming's fingers were as sharp as dragon claws, wreathed in 9 sacred demonic essences that made his dragon scales bristle. Blood dripped from Qi Daojun's claws, as if they were about to shatter. In the distance, 5 of the dozen charging figures had already been swallowed by the sword light. Their bodies convulsed with surging sword qi before exploding violently. Seal off your 6 senses, now is the moment. Xie Jinglin transmitted telepathically, warning his allies. From his inner world, ashes erupted from the earth, coalescing into half an axe handle. Resonating with the inner world, it empowered the giant axe. For a moment, the axe in Xie Jinglin's hand seemed to burst into flames before shattering into fragments that returned to the divine Pure Land. A terrifying power surged outward as Xie Jinglin's inner world erupted with axe light. Carrying an overwhelming, unstoppable intent, it pressed down on Qinming. At that moment, Xie Jinglin himself coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his inner world, already battered and torn, began to crumble. Years ago, his inner landscape had shattered in this very manner, an event that had left him crippled and ruined. Yet today, he had deliberately chosen to let that tragedy repeat itself. However, he had long since prepared for this moment, his mind and spirit teetered on the brink of total oblivion as he unleashed the axe light, charged with the terrifying intent of cleaving the heavens, to strike his adversary. The turn of events was sudden and unexpected. Qinming truly had not anticipated that an opponent he was gradually suppressing could unleash such a devastating burst of axe light. He knew the problem lay with the ashes, likely remnants of the true heaven-opening axe, now forming the axe handle and manifesting an unfathomable, hazy domain. Qinming's mind reeled from the shock, his gaze grew vacant, bordering on stupefaction. Now, Qi Daojun, who hadn't completely shut off his senses, retaining a sliver of consciousness spiritual light, roared and spat out a talisman that shot toward Qinming. This was a forbidden technique he had prepared before entering the night void. It was a page of light paper, formed from Tao imprints rather than physical matter, covered in dense scripture, a contract that illuminated the void. Sensing the danger, Qinming felt the light paper rush into his consciousness, sending a chill down his spine. An immortal contract. Qinming was no stranger to such a contract. He had once confronted a similar contract used to enslave Li Shi when facing Li Guang of the Sun Elf clan. Now, as the immortal contract entered his mind, his hair stood on end. Qinming was besieged by internal and external threats. Externally, the oppressive domain of the heaven-opening axe bore down on him. Internally, the immortal contract was about to take effect. He roared, his entire being surging with power. Qinming's silk book technique activated wildly, merging heavenly light, consciousness, and divine wisdom into a unified force. Brilliant divine rings erupted around his body. Simultaneously, his inner world expanded, its domain of the gods clashing against the heaven-opening axe's domain. His spiritual domain materialized, causing the void to tremble as visible ripples spread outward, forming an all-encompassing defense against the encroaching external forces. Then, his spirit roared. Heavenly light, fused with sacred demonic essence energy and consciousness, blazed like a blazing sun, confronting the immortal contract and crashing against the luminous contract. He's temporarily holding them off, Xie Jinglin murmured, opening his eyes fully after the heaven-opening axe's domain, carried by the ashen axe handle, had charged into the opponent's inner world. Decades ago, when faced with such an attack, his inner vision had completely collapsed, offering no resistance. Now, having comprehended the heaven-opening axe and gradually adapted to its power, he dared to confront it again. Senior brother Xie, help me. Qi Daojun cried out in terror. He realized that his opponent's consciousness spiritual light was terrifying, a burning great sun radiating the combined qi of the immortal path, esoteric sect, and physical body cultivator. Heavenly light, infused with sacred demonic essence energy, threatened to ignite the immortal contract itself. With a whoosh, Xie Jinglin also summoned a light paper, clearly having studied the immortal contract beforehand and prepared one in advance. Qinming recovered from the shock of the axe handle's domain, his radiant aura intensifying as he began to counterattack. His heavenly light and consciousness, now unified in return to one, proved even more terrifying than pure yang power. They blocked the immortal contract, then hurled it aside. Even Xie Jinglin's light paper was frozen in place. Then, Qinming began to reverse the flow. Between him and his opponents, the light papers glowed brilliantly, forming golden bridges studded with scriptural characters that shimmered like stars. Qinming met the force head-on, completely overturning the luminous documents and sending them spiraling back. No! Qi Daojun roared, his face contorted in terror. If the backlash struck him, the immortal contract would turn against him, enslaving him instead. Xie Jinglin's expression also darkened, and he let out a low, guttural growl. While their spiritual domains clashed, their true bodies launched simultaneous attacks. In that moment, Qinming ascended to the peak of his potential, wielding the silk book techniques to command all techniques. His fist glowed with heavenly light, illuminating the pitch-black heavens. With a thunderous crack, Qi Daojun's dragon scales exploded, his massive body shattering into 3 pieces that flew in different directions. Burn! He roared, nearly self-destructing as he desperately tried to tear apart the talisman, unwilling to be consumed by its backlash. Xie Jinglin, wielding his massive axe, clashed head-on with Qinming, coughing up mouthfuls of blood. He faced the same peril. The immortal contract glowed ominously, invading his consciousness. Break! He howled, recklessly burning his spiritual domain in a desperate attempt to destroy the immortal contract. With another thunderous crack, Qinming's fist pierced through Xie Jinglin, the force nearly tearing his spiritual domain apart. Xie Jinglin was sent flying, crashing into the sea. The remaining 11 cultivators felt their scalps tingle with dread. How could they possibly resist? Unable to escape, unable to fight back, they were utterly trapped. Qinming's black hair whipped around his face, his eyes sharp as cold lightning. Like a divine demon striding across the sea, each step sent shockwaves through the water. With each stride, the cultivators exploded one after another, their bodies shattering into fragments within the radiant glow of his fists. Go easy. The yellow canopy umbrella called out. Qinming's brutal attack was burning away even the consciousness spiritual light that had escaped their shattered bodies, threatening to extinguish them completely. The umbrella is eating people. The consciousness spiritual lights were terrified as the yellow canopy umbrella rotated, sucking them all inside. They were utterly desperate. Qinming's murderous intent surged as he glared at his opponent, who had transformed back into a phoenix using the true spirit Tao scripture. The phoenix was desperately piecing its body together with the last remnants of the light of nirvana. Then, he turned his gaze to Xie Jinglin, who was struggling to break free from the sea's surface. Originally, Qinming had intended to end both their lives with a single strike. But seeing their agonizing expressions, their faces twisted in pain as the spiritual light of the immortal contract gradually enveloped them, he temporarily suppressed his killing intent. How could this happen? Qi Daojun muttered, his spirit shattered. This defeat was too devastating, he had fallen so low. Xie Jinglin was equally dazed, his temples now streaked with even more white hair, as if he had aged 20 years in an instant. Qinming advanced, carefully probing and sensing their condition. Both men had suffered severe primordial qi depletion. In a desperate move, they had self-destructed portions of their mental fields, inflicting grievous injuries upon themselves but only managing to destroy fragments of the immortal contract. Overall, 70% of the immortal contract remained intact. They were no longer free men, now completely at Qinming's mercy. Qinming's murderous aura still blazed. How dare they use an immortal contract against him, attempting to enslave him as a lishi? They deserved to die. Only after 10 breaths did he finally suppress his killing intent, gradually calming down. The outcome was satisfactory, the two had reaped the consequences of their own wickedness. Qinming grabbed Qi Daojun, who had transformed back into human form. Come, tell me about the true scripture you cultivate. Recite it for me. Qi Daojun's expression twisted with bitterness. Just moments ago, he had been a celestial being looking down upon the earth, a true disciple of the earth immortal. Now, in the blink of an eye, he had become a prisoner. Speak. Qinming snapped. Qi Daojun sighed. With the immortal contract binding me, I cannot defy your will. However, deep within my consciousness lies a seal placed by the earth immortal. If I recite the true scripture, my consciousness' spiritual light will instantly shatter. You'll gain nothing. Qinming's face darkened. With a sharp crack, he slapped Qi Daojun, splitting his jaw and knocking out several teeth, which fell to the ground mixed with blood. And you? Qinming turned to Xie Jinglin, whose face was pale with illness. I'm the same as him, Xie Jinglin said wistfully, his voice tinged with sorrow and desolation. After decades of wasted years, he had believed that by rediscovering the Tao, he could return as a king. But who could have foreseen that someone would withstand the heaven-opening axe, surpassing even him, who stood at the pinnacle of power? Then what use are you two? Qinming roared in fury. Let me. The shrunken yellow canopy umbrella pulsed with energy. Qinming didn't immediately kill the two men. You two, tell me about the affairs of the heavens. He demanded. Clearly, the two couldn't speak of secrets or forbidden knowledge. Whenever they tried, the restraints within their bodies would activate, causing their spiritual domains to resonate violently and threaten to disintegrate. Qinming delivered a kick to each of them, sending them sprawling. Their bones cracked and snapped audibly, leaving many of them broken. He offered his assessment. I have never encountered such utterly useless, worthless captives. Instantly, the two men were enraged. A true warrior may be killed, but never humiliated, they actually attempted to self-detonate. Halt! Qinming barked out a sharp command. The two men felt a profound despair. Even their own deaths were beyond their control, their fates dictated by a single command. Moments later, Qinming's face lit up with joy. While clearing the ashes from the divine Pure Land, he had sensed an anomaly, a unique spiritual realm hidden within the debris. With a slight resonance, he could glimpse the cultivation technique of the heaven-opening axe. He immediately withdrew, realizing the location was unsuitable. The axe's radiance was terrifying, threatening to cleave through one's very mind. How did you obtain the technique for cultivating this massive axe within your inner vision? Qinming asked. As expected, Xie Jinglin's heaven-opening axe hadn't been taught by the earth immortal old monsters. Long ago, most of the axe handle was reduced to ashes. When I touched the remaining fragment, I received an image of its essence. Afterward, the entire fragment burned to ash. He also revealed that a small piece of the axe blade had been stolen by descendants of the earth immortal ancestor. Xie Jinglin explained, I can only describe the image of its essence in words. It's too mysterious to manifest with the light of the soul. You likely can't cultivate it. Qinming listened to his explanation without further comment. Why don't you just kill us? The two men, resigned to their fate, had resolved to die. Qinming immediately looked displeased. Stop acting so melodramatic, as if I'm the villain here. You need to understand, you were the ones who came after me. You ended up getting captured, so you have no one but yourselves to blame. The victor rules, the vanquished fall, declared Qi Daojun. Xie Jinglin, however, remained silent, choosing not to say another word. Qinming grew increasingly dissatisfied. After capturing these two useless burdens, they had suddenly become defiant, acting as if they were ready to die heroically. After careful consideration, he decided to make use of the trash. You two will explore the deep sea for me, he ordered. He handed them the shrimp dragon's map, instructing them to venture forth and bring back any treasures they found. As for himself, he still lacked sufficient knowledge of the night void. He wouldn't recklessly plunge into that unknown sea based on a single invitation from the shrimp dragon. You are strictly forbidden from taking your own lives, Qinming warned. Remember this well, you must remain absolutely loyal to me. If you manage to unearth any great fortune within the ancient, mighty one's grotto mansion, I will reward you accordingly. In the future, regaining your freedom may not be entirely out of the question. After issuing these instructions, and setting a rendezvous time, Qinming released them into the deep sea. Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun felt their life's sky had turned utterly bleak. Setting out with hearts filled with despair, they imagined the world blanketed in heavy snow, their spirits heavy with desolation and confusion. Pull yourselves together. The future still holds promise. Qinming shouted. Instantly, the two were involuntarily energized, their heads snapping up, a genuine surge of determination rising within them. They began their advance into the deep sea. Qinming's face registered astonishment. This immortal contract truly possesses a demonic nature, it actually worked. I want to cry, but I can't stop feeling so invigorated, Qi Daojun said, a radiant smile plastered across his face, his words and demeanor clearly at odds. Xie Jinglin replied, can you resist it? The immortal contract is rooted in our consciousness, impossible to remove. Let's just take it one step at a time and keep hoping for a promising future. Suddenly, he turned back, freezing in place. Why was there a light like the heaven-opening axe rising from the distant sea? How could this be? Xie Jinglin was stunned. Even though that person had only heard his description and never seen the inner vision heaven-cleaving axe diagram, he had still managed to comprehend it. What kind of monster was this? Qinming was filled with joy, having achieved complete awakening. After successfully breaking through his bottleneck, both his physical constitution and spiritual strength had reached new heights. His mind and body felt clear and light, and the Tao imprint within him had completely dissipated during the nirvana process. Up in the 9 heavens, are those old monsters still waiting for me to ascend? Keep waiting, then. Too bad I can't get close enough to see the expressions on your wrinkled faces. Gradually, a smile spread across Qin Ming's face, radiating a sense of accomplishment. He had obtained an extraordinary trump card, the inner vision heaven-cleaving axe, a technique that would likely be considered a sect-defining masterpiece even in the heavens. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 464, Transcending the Three Realms, 2 chapters combined. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. High above the pitch-black 9 heavens, gale winds howled. Deep within the sea of night mist, within a magnificent jade palace, an ancient entity set down his teacup, his brow furrowing slightly. What is the situation down on the surface? By my reckoning, the top-ranked youths from the mortal realm should be ascending to the heavens by now. Standing nearby, a female disciple who served as an attendant smiled and replied, though this is a single step to heaven, they must still leave their homeland. Such young people might be reluctant, perhaps lingering to bid farewell to their families. 2 earth immortals, who were engaged in a game of Go nearby, paused their match. One of them set down a black stone and remarked, we have already bestowed our blessings upon them, surely no unforeseen mishaps could possibly occur. The other earth immortal picked up a luminous white piece. But what would you do if someone were to stand in their way? The earth immortal holding the black stone gave a faint smile. Hey, could anyone actually stop them? In the night void, silver sands shimmered with the iridescent glow of countless seashells. Qinming clutched his head, feeling as if a fissure had cracked through his very being. His spiritual domain had nearly been torn apart, and even with his eyes closed, the axe's radiant light still burned behind his eyelids. He had remained unscathed during his initial comprehension of the inner vision heaven-cleaving axe. But in the final moment, when its overwhelming, unstoppable light had completely engulfed him, everything had changed. Resonance carries risks, comprehending scriptures requires caution, Qinming murmured, massaging his temples. It had been ages since he'd experienced such a terrifying ordeal. With his advanced cultivation, his resilience was formidable. Yet just now, he had felt trapped in an inescapable abyss, his body and spirit seemingly cleaved in two. Activating the fundamental scripture, Qinming gradually healed his mind and spirit, recovering his composure. The inner vision heaven-cleaving axe. It's truly extraordinary. He finally understood why Xie Jinglin's inner world had been destroyed at his peak, leaving him stagnant for decades. Even with prior preparation for the resonance, Qinming had nearly succumbed. How much more vulnerable would someone be, suddenly struck by the axe's conceptual force the moment they touched its handle? At the shoreline, Qinming's inner world had already manifested, materializing a colossal axe radiating unparalleled might. With a single downward swing into the ocean, the entire sea split apart, forming a terrifying great rift valley that stretched endlessly forward. Then, the entire vast sea shattered, towering waves crashed against the sky, and massive surges washed over the night sky, dispersing the dense night mist high above like thunderbolts from the 9 heavens, a deafening spectacle of interwoven runes and raw power. Most terrifying was the intent behind the axe strike, its light was utterly indestructible, as if it could truly cleave the heavens. Above the 9 heavens, there exist techniques to slay gods and Buddhas, Qinming mused. Such formidable techniques, likely the final chapters of the most renowned true scriptures, must be reserved for the most profound realms. He pondered earnestly. The inner vision heaven-cleaving axe didn't require merging 8 sacred demonic essences or achieving the ninefold perfection. As long as one's mental fortitude was sufficient to withstand the axe light's inherited diagram, cultivation could proceed. Some mystical techniques and offensive techniques, when grasped through exceptional comprehension, could transcend ordinary power without needing to accumulate sacred demonic essence sword chi, tribulation chi, or other external forces. For example, the longevity sword intent, unwritten within the sustaining world scripture. In an instant, a luminous green leaf appeared beneath Qin Ming's feet, lifting him into the night sky. A faint verdant glow tinged the corners of his eyes and brows. Yet as the night wind swept past, his hair reverted to its raven black hue, returning to its natural state. Only the tender, budding branch in his hand remained, vibrant with life and dripping with vitality. With a swift slash, he completely severed the towering wave, freezing it in midair as if time itself had frozen. A moment later, the severed wave exploded in the night mist, transforming into vapor that completely evaporated. Even a singular domain can be pushed to its absolute limit. Qin Ming murmured to himself. Reflecting on this, he realized he still had considerable room for improvement. Of course, he wouldn't abandon his core advantage. His fundamental scripture was meant to govern all techniques, constantly fusing them together. Otherwise, how could the primordial chaos force be considered invincible? If he didn't push himself to the brink, he would become a target of suspicion from all sides. Soon after, Qin Ming resumed practicing the inner vision heaven-cleaving axe, his mastery growing with each repetition. The sea grew restless, even stirring the Grandmaster-level sea monsters. However, by the time a colossal coon fish, as large as an island, arrived, Qin Ming had already fled. He knew he had caused quite a commotion. Black mist billowed, gradually dimming the blue fire springs in the sea. As the heavy night descended, the world transformed into something unsettling. In the deepening waters, crimson coffins drifted, headless corpses floated with the currents, and burial mounds rose and fell with the waves, their soil remaining intact, refusing to sink. As midnight approached, bizarre and terrifying scenes unfolded. From the sea came the clear, childlike laughter of children. They were plump and rosy-cheeked, their smiles pure, yet they cradled blood-stained human heads, giggling incessantly and splashing through the pitch-black sea. "Old Huang, are you hungry?" Qin Ming asked. The yellow canopy umbrella remained silent, unable to grasp the situation. It sensed an overwhelming malevolent chi permeating the world, far beyond what should be possible. This shouldn't be happening. Suddenly, the night sky shattered nearby, accompanied by a thick, swirling fog. Ghostly figures materialized in droves, and human heads rained down with a sickening splatter. Figures draped in mourning attire emerged, and crimson blood cascaded from the gaping tear in the heavens. How many living beings have died? Did they slaughter their way through all 36 heavens? The myriad gods' banner trembled, even this supreme treasure, accustomed to grand spectacles, was deeply disturbed. Qin Ming activated the heavenly light and summoned the banner. The yellow canopy umbrella spun, its silken tassels at the edges trailing wisps of cloud-like mist and purple chi, radiating an aura of sacredness. Starlight cascaded down like shimmering rain. As the blood poured from the sky, black shadows swooped down, only to be blocked by the umbrella's canopy. "Wanzher, does it taste good?" Qin Ming asked with feigned concern. "Ha!" The umbrella shook violently, shedding the bloodstains and disintegrating the black shadows. It spewed black smoke incessantly, like a creature suffering from severe indigestion, vomiting repeatedly. "You're still being picky about what you eat?" Qin Ming asked, surprised. The yellow canopy umbrella pulsed, its voice echoing, "These residual spiritual entities are already deeply corrupted. Purifying them wouldn't even offset the energy I'd expend, it's a waste." Meanwhile, deep beneath the sea, Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun stared in stunned silence, their hearts pounding with dread. As night deepened, the entire seascape transformed. Gravestones bobbed in the waves around them, and rotting corpses drifted past. The vast ocean had become a sea of death, the children's laughter piercingly shrill, sending shivers down their spines. Night void. Is there any detailed record of this in the heavens? Qi Daojun asked. The records are vague and unclear, Xie Jinglin replied. How are we supposed to go any deeper? We need to sink to the seabed now. The two men were gripped by terror. This world defied all reason, an anomaly that shouldn't exist. Yet they had no choice but to press onward, bound by the immortal contract, shackled deep within their consciousness. They stood in silence, unable to see the forward path or find any refuge. All that remained was death and the distant horizon. If the ancestors in the heavens intervened, could they save us? Qi Daojun asked after a long silence. The immortal contract is unbreakable, Xie Jinglin replied. More importantly, we haven't ascended to the heavens yet. Breaking the contract would mean instant death. Unless Tai grows strong enough to sever it himself, we're doomed. In the dead of night, Qin Ming fled desperately, having narrowly escaped a terrifying encounter. He was being hunted by a monster covered entirely in blue eyes. The creature had a withered, ancient face, its skin a mass of wrinkles. Even without considering the rest of its body, its wrinkled face alone bore 36 eyes, making it a truly horrifying sight. Qin berated himself for his recklessness. He had let his ambition get the better of him, foolishly attempting to probe the bloody hole in the night sky and enter the second layer of the night void. Just as he peeked through the opening, a pristine white hand, smooth as jade, descended from the heavens, wielding a massive, pitch-black hammer. It struck him with the force of a whack-a-mole blow. He had barely poked his head through, not yet fully entered the second layer of the night void. Yet the mountain-sized hammer crashed down with overwhelming force, obliterating the falling heads, blood, and black shadows nearby. In that critical moment, Qin activated the yellow canopy umbrella, raising it above his head as he plummeted downward at breakneck speed. Even so, the shockwave from the pitch-black hammer rattled his bones, causing them to creak and crack. Blood streamed from his 7 orifices, and cracks spider-webbed across his body, nearly shattering him into pieces and sending him to his final demise. Immediately afterward, a humanoid old monster covered in blue eyes swooped down from the night sky, pursuing him relentlessly. "Wanzher, what's the point of you? I almost got shattered." Qin grumbled in frustration. After a brief silence, the yellow canopy umbrella pulsed with energy and retorted, "I don't want to talk to you." Having fallen from its former glory and been reduced to a mundane existence, the supreme treasure still retained its inherent dignity. To be passively blocked outside, struck head-on by a hammer, was truly humiliating. One glance, 1 year of life force, devour. Behind him, the monster, its entire body covered in blue eyes, emitted terrifying and frenzied psychic fluctuations. Hundreds of blue beams shot forth, hurtling toward Qin. A chill ran down Qin spine. Could this be a monster at the Grandmaster domain? It was difficult to assess its true realm, as its methods and abilities differed vastly from those within the Harmony Jade Capital's dominion. Without hesitation, Qin raised the yellow canopy umbrella and fiercely activated it, causing the canopy to expand and shield him from behind. With a thunderous boom, the exotic metal umbrella shuddered violently. Qin coughed up a mouthful of blood. The demonic treasure itself lacked the ability to dissipate force, its only defense was its sheer durability. The hundreds of blue beams struck the canopy, attempting to sever life force and steal vitality. Moreover, these blue gazes suddenly materialized, transforming into writhing tentacles that began to tug and pull at the umbrella's surface. "Wanzher," Qin sighed, "is this where our fate ends? Must we part ways?" If the situation proved hopeless, he would have no choice but to abandon the umbrella and flee. A flicker of resentment stirred within him. He had swept aside young prodigies from the heavens with ease, yet now he faced a life-or-death crisis against a mysterious monster from the night void. Nonsense. The yellow canopy umbrella retorted. It wouldn't have minded being anywhere else, but it absolutely refused to be trapped in the night void, where the food was severely problematic. A glowing pattern on the umbrella's surface revealed a recently acquired tattoo, a law chain now ensnared by dozens of blue tentacles, which began to glow. Sizzle. The law chain left behind by Jade Capital reactivated, piercing through the monster's tentacles and shooting outward to impale dozens of its eyes, causing blue ichor to splatter everywhere. A muffled groan followed by a piercing shriek erupted as the monster frantically gouged out its blue eyes. Shrouded in a swirling blue mist, it turned and fled, then surged upward through the crimson chasm in the night sky. Qin immediately retreated, soaring intermittently on the 9-colored sword qi. Though his aerial flight was brief, he pressed on relentlessly, covering over 1,000 miles to escape the night ruins. "Old Huang, we've been through thick and thin together," Qin gasped, catching his breath in a deserted Earth's secret aperture, now back within the borders of Night Province. The yellow canopy umbrella replied tersely, "We're just scapegoat buddies. Why be so harsh? I just gave you a heavenly soul body, and you even smiled at me and showered me with auspicious purple qi. Give me 100 more souls. How can you be so mercenary?" Qin kept up his banter, yet cold sweat beaded on his forehead. Facing that creature, its entire body studded with blue eyes, had been a truly perilous ordeal. Had he slipped up even once, he surely would have met his end. The night-shrouded world was shrouded in mystery, every region veiled in mist and defying comprehension. In the second layer of the night void, merely showing his face had nearly resulted in his annihilation. Qin waited through the night, calculating the time. Only when he was certain that daybreak had returned to the night void and normalcy had been restored did he venture back in, eager to reunite with his 2 loyal subordinates. In the deep sea, Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun followed the map to the cave abode left behind by an ancient great power. They lingered outside, discovering that other experts were already lurking nearby. "Everyone, this place is shrouded in mystery. We should join forces," a sea demon proposed. Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun blended into the monster crowd, joining the expedition. They felt that going with the flow was safer than striking out alone. This stretch of sea was indeed extraordinary. 5 colored coral walls stretched endlessly, the seabed was paved with gold shells, and pearls the size of human heads illuminated the depths. Deep below, a dreamlike, iridescent palace shimmered. In the end, the group unearthed great medicine, including crimson fruits said to extend one's lifespan by decades. They also discovered the dragon transformation pool, driving the sea monsters into a frenzy. Yet this was merely the outer region. Deep within the submarine palace, an ancient immortal tree flourished, its branches laden with what appeared to be the legendary Earth Immortal fruit. Several Earth Immortal corpses guarded the palace gates. Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun were stunned, their blood boiling with excitement. Could this be their chance to defy fate and rewrite their destinies? Exercising caution, they didn't rush forward. Instead, they retreated. However, their astonishment only deepened. Even after reaching the outer region, they couldn't escape the looming calamity. In truth, the moment they glimpsed the cave abode from afar, their fate was sealed. The entire 100-mile radius was ensnared by a formation. Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun were left dazed and numb, their spirits crushed. You live for your master, you were born for your master. From this day forth, your lives belong to this place. Strive with all your might to resurrect your master. Within their seas of consciousness, a black, light paper, materialized, sealing a binding contract. They had been forcibly subjugated by the ancient cave abode. Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun were utterly devastated. In just a day and a night, they had been subjected to 2 separate contracts, a nightmare beyond comprehension. They had been subjected to a double enslavement. This was primarily because the immortal contract rune had only been partially activated, leaving an opening for the black contract rune to exploit and take effect as well. The most terrifying aspect was that if the luminous immortal contract and the dark contract rune were to clash, their spiritual consciousness might explode, burning to ashes. Qin Ming, having met the 2 men and learned part of the truth, asked, "Are you saying that the ancient cave abode was a trap designed to lure in experts and then enslave them?" "The cave abode is real, and it does contain great fortune," Qi Daojun replied, his consciousness spiritual light flickering as if burning. He groaned, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. But the residual soul of its master remains. To fully revive, it seems to require many conditions. He could speak no further. Due to his state of dual enslavement, his situation was precarious, he simply could not defy the wills of his 2 masters. "We can't return to the heavens," Xie Jinglin said mournfully. The first restriction imposed by the obscure will within the cave abode was that they could never leave this sea. "You 2 are forbidden from revealing any information about me," Qin Ming declared. He sighed. "What kind of mess is this? Is it always this competitive, no matter where you go? I finally managed to scrape together 2 subordinates, and after just one night, someone else swooped in and snatched them away. They're not even fully mine anymore." Still, he didn't feel particularly regretful. After all, these 2 had attacked him first, and he had captured them with the intention of making the most of their usefulness. Qin Ming turned to Qi Daojun. "You'll practice the true spirit Tao scripture here. Not to teach me, but to consolidate your own understanding. Just cultivate quietly in this place." Qin Ming attempted to use resonance to extract fragments of the scripture, but Qi Daojun immediately coughed up blood, his consciousness spiritual light burned, and he nearly exploded on the spot. Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun were both horrified. Is this person trying to steal the true spirit Tao scripture, causing Qi Daojun to suffer such a violent backlash? Qin Ming sighed and ended the resonance. He said, "You must forget everything about me. Do not leave the night void sea, and keep a close watch on the cave abode of that ancient great power. That's all. I look forward to our next reunion." Xie Jinglin and Qi Daojun felt a profound sense of despair. They were now completely trapped in the night void sea, temporarily becoming sleeping pawns, awaiting Taiyi's activation. This sea is home to an ancient great power awaiting full revival, destined to enslave you all. There seems to be no escape. But if you look to the horizon, there's also a heavenly maiden of immense power. Weigh your options carefully. Qin Ming departed, leaving the night void behind. The Thunder King bird, guarding the mountain range outside the Earth's secret aperture's exit, immediately approached with its 3 massive heads, expressing its joy at Qin Ming's return. "Let's go to Kunling." Now that the Tao imprint on Qin Ming had vanished, he felt completely relieved, no longer fearing being tracked by heavenly forces. He intended to visit Yu Zhensheng at the Mountain and River Academy to deliver longevity medicine. The great environment of heaven and earth was undergoing drastic changes, already affecting even grandmasters. Qin Ming worried that the old man's already dwindling lifespan wouldn't withstand such turmoil. At Kunling's Mountain and River Academy, Yu Zhensheng spotted the familiar figure and immediately pulled him aside. "Xiao Qin, don't wander around lately. The world is in chaos, and something major might happen. You'd better hide." As he spoke, he covered his mouth with his wide sleeve, coughing repeatedly. Bloodstains marred the fabric. Senior. Qin Ming asked anxiously, what's wrong? Yu Zhensheng shook his head, feigning nonchalance. It's nothing. All the grandmasters are starting to suffer. This is normal. He continued casually, I have no children or family. My former disciples are either dead or scattered. I'm all alone. Even if I were to undergo transformation immediately, it wouldn't matter much. It's just a pity I won't see the day you soar to the heavens. Then, he retrieved a brocade box and said, this is all I have left. Not much, just worldly possessions. Since you're here, take it. Saves me the trouble of writing a will. Senior, what are you saying? Put it away. You'll be fine. Qinming immediately produced a miraculous medicine that could extend one's lifespan by 80 years and handed it to him. Instantly, the golden pear emitted a rich fragrance that filled the entire room. Yu Zhensheng gasped, hiss. Could this be a golden pear? I heard the old barbarian god of the northern wilderness cultivated one, but it was stolen recently. There were only a few fruits on the tree to begin with, and they were all gone in a single night. Qinming strongly suspected that the new ranking had once visited the old barbarian god to restock. Yu Zhensheng said, I'm already old. Consuming such a heavenly material would be a complete waste. There's no need to give it to me. I'll leave it to fate. It's time I went to see old Zhao anyway. He was thinking of his old partner, Zhao Ziwan. Qinming firmly placed the fruit in his hand. Senior, please accept it. I once ascended to the heavens and dominated the sword duel platform, gaining many benefits. This fruit is nothing compared to that. Yu Zhensheng immediately perked up, eagerly asking about Qinming's battles in the heavens. By the end of the conversation, his aged face trembled with excitement as he repeatedly exclaimed, good, good, good. Finally, he accepted the golden pear and, heeding Qinming's advice, consumed it on the spot. Before their eyes, a layer of new hair visibly sprouted on his thinning scalp. However, he ultimately used heavenly light to erase the growth, avoiding unwanted attention. Yu Zhensheng declared, now that I have a few more years to live, I will perfect the heavenly magnetic secret manual. By combining the ancient magnetic scripture with the new profound magnetic scripture, I will create a completely revised magnetic manual for you. Not long thereafter, Qinming took his leave. He intended to adopt a low profile, lying dormant in the shadows, to quietly observe the unfolding, heaven-sealing turmoil that threatened to erupt at any moment. In the heavens, within the Jade Palace, an Earth Immortal rose, having received concrete intelligence. Both groups searching for Tai and Jingji Pai have vanished without a trace. Could some old monster from the mortal realm be interfering? HMPH, do they truly think they can obstruct us? Even with the great environment's upheaval, we Earth Immortals can still descend to the mortal realm and act directly. The situation on the ground was indeed becoming chaotic, and the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. For instance, little Tathagata was in hiding, unwilling to ascend to the heavens, and had even mentioned Qinming to the envoys. The Kui clan, too, had spoken of him. Qinming's innate talent was said to be extraordinary, making him one of the most renowned young prodigies of his generation, hailed as the face of the path of awakening. At this moment, with no Dao imprint upon his person, Qinming had successfully extricated his status as the top-ranked figure from the ensuing turmoil. However, his true self remained a marked target. Are you looking for Xiao Qin? He's away on a journey and hasn't returned yet, Meng Xinghai said, fending off another wave of envoys. He continued, you wouldn't think his refined silk book is particularly special, would you? The scripture's origins lie in Pugong. You'd be better off seeking out little Tathagata. He claims to be the orthodox heir and is considered one of the most exceptional figures among the younger generation. Meng Xinghai added, actually, Qinming's cultivation is still shallow, only at the third realm. Did you know he used to be Kui Chonghei's substitute? The true master calls himself the dragon among men. Naturally, he had caught wind of the rumors. Since there were those intent on using excessive praise to set a trap, a tactic known as praising someone to death, he saw no reason to hold back his own lavish compliments regarding the relevant parties. After all, who didn't know how to employ such tactics? The Earth Immortal's true body is descending to the mortal realm. This earth-shattering news spread like wildfire that day. To dare to slay even the envoys, some people down on the surface have truly lost all sense of reverence. Without a doubt, the old monsters in the heavens possessed terrifying methods. They had already calculated the deaths of Zhang Yan, Shen Wei, and the others, and even discerned the fates of Qi Daojun and Xie Jinglan, who should have remained uninvolved. In the night sky, seven-colored immortal light blazed with unparalleled brilliance and terrifying power, illuminating heaven and earth. 4 Earth Immortals simultaneously descended from the firmament, each radiating an incomparably dreadful aura. At this critical moment, Qinming lay hidden deep within the pitch-black Great Mountain, calmly observing the unfolding events. He had effectively transcended the three realms, remaining detached from the conflict while preparing to enter the night void at any moment. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 465, Earth Immortals Descend Upon the World, 2 chapters combined. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. A meteor from beyond the heavens is falling to Earth. Beneath the cloak of night, in a remote village, children pointed toward the sky, their innocent eyes were filled with wonder and anticipation. An old man in the village suddenly looked up, his face etched with shock. How can it be so bright? The fall of such a great star. This heralds a major calamity. The terrifyingly intense light pierced through the thick, pitch-black clouds. The night sky, once deep and oppressive like an inverted abyss, now blazed with 4 brilliant streaks of light. These fiery trails descended rapidly, growing brighter and more vibrant, converging into a single, dazzling spectacle. It's like heavenly fire pouring down from beyond the world. Does this foretell a great disaster? Panic gripped the villages and towns. Ordinary people paled at the sight, as the celestial flames spread across the sky, engulfing the world in a searing, incandescent glow. In Earth City and among the few great factions on the ground who had pledged allegiance to the heavenly beings, news had arrived in advance. They knew the Earth Immortals would descend today and understood the significance of this celestial event. The 4 radiant streams of fire converged, merging into a single, crystalline entity. 7-colored immortal light bathed all creation as they finally landed upon the great Rui imperial capital. Rui City stood majestic and imposing, its walls stretching like mountain ranges. As the capital of one of the 3 great dynasties and ranked among the 10 renowned cities of the world, it was a symbol of power and grandeur. The 4 Earth Immortals had chosen Rui City for their descent for a specific reason. Their objective was not merely to seal off the heavens, but also to bring about the complete unification of the mortal realm. Heaven and earth shone with a brilliance akin to daylight. The 4 Earth Immortals, clad in flowing feather robes, exuded an ethereal aura. Some had crane white hair and youthful faces, while others possessed raven black locks. Their wide sleeves billowed with each graceful movement, radiating an otherworldly purity that transcended mortal existence. Greetings, Earth Immortals. Members of Great Rui's imperial clan immediately prostrated themselves in reverence. Having long pledged allegiance to the heavenly beings, they had eagerly awaited this moment, their hearts now brimming with excitement. They knew that Great Rui would be the dynasty to achieve the great unification of Night Province, securing their place in history with an immortal legacy. As for the stubborn old faction within the Great Rui imperial clan, they would inevitably fade into obscurity upon the Earth Immortals' descent. To resist would be as futile as a mantis challenging a chariot, a reckless act of self-delusion. Even the Rui Emperor himself knelt in obeisance, chanting, "True Immortals above." His dragon robe spread across the glazed floor. The 7-colored immortal light radiating from the 4 Earth Immortals enveloped the magnificent imperial palace, bathing it in a sacred, misty glow. The scene resembled an immortal clan's grotto heaven merging with the mortal realm. News of this event sent shockwaves across Night Province. The true bodies of the 4 great Earth Immortals had descended, and their mere appearance had subjugated a powerful imperial dynasty, shaking the world to its core. That very day, numerous great factions within the Great Rui dynasty submitted to their authority. Key figures from these factions flocked to Rui City to personally pay homage to the 4 great Earth Immortals. Though some harbored resentment, they had no choice but to bow their heads. This was the inevitable tide of fate, impossible to resist, for they had all received the Earth Immortal decrees and dared not disobey. A divine temple bathed in a pale golden fire spring belonged to a gate within the esoteric sect. Though not an ancestral court, it held considerable renown within the Great Rui dynasty. They had not yet paid homage to the Earth Immortals. At the faintest twilight of noon, as the Supreme Elder was cultivating with the Tao resonance of the night sky, a violent otherworldly venomous fire suddenly descended. Though a Grand Master, he was instantly grievously wounded, his body nearly incinerated. Now, with the world undergoing cataclysmic changes, all Grand Masters bore injuries. Having narrowly escaped death in this calamity, the renowned old Grandmaster's near demise sent shockwaves through many factions. Could this be thunderfire unleashed by the Earth Immortals to punish this Tao lineage? How could people not draw such conclusions? This was not the ancestors' doing, a heavenly being declared sternly, demanding that the Earth Immortals' reputation remain untarnished. Many believed that an old monster of such caliber would not stoop to attacking a mere Grand Master. Moreover, if such a calamity had been unleashed, the entire Divine Temple would have been reduced to scorched earth. Nevertheless, all major organizations, noble clans across the land, and other factions felt immense pressure. With the Earth Immortals descending from the 9 heavens to the mortal realm, there was a sense of impending storm, like a mountain rain about to break. The hearts of all parties were taut with tension. People couldn't help but turn their gazes toward beyond the mortal realm and the ancestral courts of the esoteric sect and the path of awakening, eager to discern the reactions of the high command of each path. Yet the founding ancestors of the path of awakening, the esoteric sect, and the immortal path remained silent, taking no action whatsoever. In an instant, many great factions across Night Province fell silent as well, all enduring an invisible pressure. Would the four great Earth Immortals target them next? The founding ancestors haven't shown themselves in ages, someone whispered within a small circle. Are they even still alive? By now, everyone knew that since the transformation of the great environment, from founding ancestors to grandmasters, all had suffered physical ailments. Some might even face fatal calamities. Doubts began to spread. Were the high command of the various paths still in Night Province? Had they already fled the Jade Capital's dominion, venturing into the pioneering to seek a path to survival? They probably can't leave easily, another voice countered. Their Tao resonance clashes with that of distant realms. Short-term stays might be manageable, but prolonged exposure to other lands could worsen their conditions. A wave of unease swept through the crowd. Beyond the mortal realm, a mortal land is also within Great Rui's territory. Yet their people haven't sought an audience with the Earth Immortals. In truth, all major organizations were closely monitoring the situation, watching to see if any Earth Immortals would personally visit the beyond the mortal realm immortal land. As night deepened, people saw the pitch-black clouds part, revealing several streaks of light hurtling toward immortal land, one of the most important blessed lands on the immortal path. Tension hung in the air as everyone awaited news of significance. At immortal land, the formation blazed to life, auspicious clouds billowed, and a golden avenue stretched from the mountain gate to welcome the heavenly visitors with impeccable ceremony. Soon, reliable reports emerged. The four great Earth Immortals remained seated in the Great Rui Imperial City, while their chief disciples had been dispatched to beyond the mortal realm. The envoys are all chief disciples, the eldest disciples of the four great Earth Immortals themselves. Each has reached the peak of the sixth realm, capable of facing any founding ancestor from any path. At present, it was the consensus among the people that Night Prefecture did not yet harbor any ancestors who had attained the seventh realm. Given their status as the Earth Immortals' foremost disciples, their standing was naturally exalted enough to make them perfectly qualified to meet with the highest-ranking figures of Night Prefecture. People realized that the Earth Immortals' decision to send their true bodies reflected their supreme confidence. Any action they took would be earth-shattering, and for now, they observed the world from above, biding their time. Would they strike against the founding ancestors of the various paths? This question weighed heavily on many minds. Within a blessed land in the Great Rui Imperial City, immortal mist swirled as the four great Earth Immortals sat in silent meditation. Their brows furrowed as they attempted to divine the whereabouts of Tai and Jingji Pai, but they found no trace. The Tao imprint has vanished, leaving no trace, Nian Song declared. With his crane-white hair and youthful complexion, his face flushed with health, he truly resembled an ancient immortal, yet his tone was now utterly indifferent. They had extracted fragments of Qi aura from the new ranking, but when they attempted to trace it, they found only an endless expanse of night shrouded in thick mist, offering no clues whatsoever. Could a master be opposing us, concealing his fate from the heavens? Xiao Qinggang suggested. The sole woman among the four great Earth Immortals, her skin was as fair as jade, her black hair cascaded like a waterfall, and her eyes shone with crystalline clarity. She appeared no older than her early 20s, bearing few marks of age. Qi Yunding's hair flowed to his waist. Though a true old monster, he looked no more than 25 or 26, his entire being radiating immortal light. He declared, with our presence here, the four great Earth Immortals descending upon the world, no demon or fiend can conceal its tracks. Mu Kangwu nodded. Indeed. Tomorrow, we shall visit the ancestral courts of each sect. But before that, we must first seize the great Tiān dynasty. His jet black hair gleamed, his eyes deep and profound. Appearing as a middle-aged man, his flesh and blood were translucent, interwoven with patterns of the immortal Tao, giving him an otherworldly aura. In the future, once the opening of the heavens had taken place, there was a possibility that the celestial city of Jade Capital would project itself down onto the realm of Night Prefecture. The four envoys were brimming with confidence. Not only did they possess great killing weapons, but they also carried Tao chains to protect their bodies and lock their Qi aura, ensuring their true bodies would remain uncorrupted by the harsh environment for a short time. Even the presence of Earth Immortals on the ground didn't faze them. That evening, the chief disciples of the four great Earth Immortals returned to report their findings. The immortal land is guarded by only one elderly sixth realm expert. The other so-called founding ancestors are nowhere to be seen. This elder appears to be nearing the end of his lifespan. Though he received us courteously, his attitude was one of fatalistic indifference. When we directly invited him to ascend to heaven, he chuckled and nodded, requesting an extension of his lifespan. He claimed that otherwise, he would die within days of ascending and would rather be buried in Night Province. Such an old ancestor master, whose potential had been exhausted, was of no use to them. Even if precious medicines existed in heaven, they wouldn't waste them on someone like that. In truth, they only sought a show of sincerity. As for the immortal seeds, most are traveling abroad. Zhang Ran, whom Master specifically mentioned, has vanished without a trace. The immortal land lacks sincerity. The four great earth immortals listened silently until the envoys finished their report, then dismissed them. That night, news spread like wildfire, unsettling all factions. It was clear that the immortal land was avoiding a direct confrontation with the four great earth immortals, with all their promising founding ancestors and disciples having fled. The founding ancestors of Night Province had always been domineering, notorious throughout the outer domain. Now that even they were lying low, what hope did others have? The next day, the four great earth immortals emerged from the blessed land of the great Rui imperial capital. Instantly, a continuous stream of seven-colored immortal light transformed into vibrant clouds and auspicious radiance, blanketing the sky. They carried not only great killing weapons and Dao chains but also the heavenly surveying mirror, ready to scour the world and hunt down everyone on their list. The four great earth immortals traversed the night sky with their physical bodies, moving at terrifying speeds that left all who witnessed it in awe. The night sky tore open, leaving four blinding trails carved across the heavens. Clouds exploded, black mist dissipated completely, and terrifying thunder reverberated through the air. Before long, they entered the territory of the great Tiān dynasty and descended upon its imperial capital. Moments later, the old emperor of Great Tiān was pinned to the ground, unable to move. He had already learned that the land would be unified under the great Rui dynasty. Naturally, he resisted becoming a subject of the Rui dynasty, but he refrained from any rash words or actions. After all, he was facing Earth immortals. He merely expressed his helplessness with veiled words. However, the four great earth immortals completely ignored his feelings, unwilling to hear him speak further. The main reason was Great Tiān's weakness. Their sixth realm expert had recently passed away, and though they still had two divine beings to rely on, these were mere, lesser gods, in the eyes of earth immortals. As a result, the entire Great Tiān imperial clan was forced to kneel on the ground. News of this event spread rapidly, carried by countless thunderbirds bearing letters that flew to distant lands, shaking the entire world. People felt the overwhelming power of the four great earth immortals, who regarded even an imperial dynasty as insignificant, leaving no room for negotiation. Before long, Great Tiān was subdued, its people deeply aware of their powerlessness against such overwhelming force. Before the four great earth immortals, the Great Tiān imperial clan's so-called experts, along with the nation's kings and nobles, seemed no more significant than worldly powers, utterly insignificant. The four great earth immortals did not linger. They soared into the sky, their forms blazing like seven-colored heavenly fire that illuminated the heavens and earth as they flew toward the horizon. Do you think those on the ground might think we're just picking on the weak? Then let's pay a visit to the immortal path and the esoteric sect's ancestral courts. The passage of earth immortals was a terrifying spectacle. Pitch-black clouds exploded continuously, creating earth-shattering booms that shook every city and Dao lineage along their path. Riding the wind and lightning, they rode on seven-colored immortal mist and arrived at beyond the mortal realm, personally ascending to the immortal path's ancestral court. Nian Song, the earth immortal, had sent his eldest disciple ahead to greet the four powerhouses, knowing they would arrive. The disciple was visibly displeased that no sixth realm expert had emerged from the mountain gate. The four great earth immortals have come in person, he demanded. Where is your founding ancestor? Why hasn't he come to welcome us himself? An aged cultivator emerged, his voice trembling with age, and said, Our founding ancestors are all gravely ill and have left to seek medical treatment. The chief disciple of the earth immortals remained impassive. What renowned physician could possibly cure such grievous wounds? This was merely a pretext for their absence. Nearby, lingering cultivators overheard the exchange and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Even the most powerful founding ancestors of Night Province had been forced to retreat before the four great earth immortals. If this were the case, no one on the ground would dare defy the will of the heavenly visitors. The four great earth immortals remained silent, their expressions utterly calm as they stepped into the pure land. They activated the heavenly surveying mirror to probe the area for any extraordinary qi. There's no sixth realm expert guarding this place, one of them observed. Only two grandmasters remain, and they're both on their last legs. Are those so-called peerless immortal seeds absent as well? The innate fire physique is nowhere to be seen either. Suddenly, Xiao Qinggang, the sole woman among the four great earth immortals, fixed her gaze on the heavenly surveying mirror. Her delicate brows furrowed slightly, her expression turning grave. There's residual qi here, qi on the verge of the seventh realm. Nian Song, his face youthful despite his snow-white hair, grew serious as well. Could it be that beyond the mortal realm is about to give birth to an earth immortal? Only then did the four old monsters begin to speak more frequently, forced to acknowledge the gravity of the situation. Qi Yunding, who appeared to be only 25 or 26 years old, spoke up. It seems someone is trying to break through to the seven convergence realm. Most likely Helian Chungyun, but he hasn't succeeded yet. They then ascended to Yang Earth and Calamity Land, their expressions grave as the heavenly surveying mirror once again detected an aura approaching the seventh realm. If there are no surprises, that should be Leng Mingkong. He's not following the path of an earth immortal. Trying to become a seven convergence realm is incredibly difficult, especially in this great environment. They're all wounded, one misstep could lead to their complete annihilation. What if he succeeds? Mu Kangwu asked, his middle-aged appearance radiating a subtle yet profound aura of authority. In a single day, the four great earth immortals traversed beyond the mortal realm, their presence shaking the world. Where is Lu Zizai? As a new day dawned, the four great earth immortals arrived at the 6th Imperial Ancestral Court. Finding founding ancestor Lu Yu absent, they demanded Lu Zizai by name. He left Night Province before the cataclysmic changes, someone informed them. Could someone be trying to master the 7 Imperial Force? Qi Yunding suddenly frowned, staring at the heavenly surveying mirror. Within its hazy display, streams of mysterious heavenly light force flowed. Without a doubt, the 6th Imperial Ancestral Court had left behind an indelible Qi aura. Soon after, they departed, heading straight for the Tathagata sect. They demanded to see the contemporary Tathagata and also mentioned other names, such as Shang Yiwu. Yet their efforts proved futile once again. The residual qi left by the contemporary Tathagata is no ordinary matter, one of them remarked. This small night province, a stagnant backwater, could hardly nurture a few true dragons, could it? Even if they aspire to the 7th realm, they can't break through now. The cosmic shifts are too violent. Besides, even with the most favorable conditions, it would be remarkable if even one of them could reach the 7th realm without undergoing a fundamental transformation of their life form. Breaking through to the 7 convergence realm was far more challenging than becoming an earth immortal. The contemporary Tathagata may be gone, but I remain, the past Tathagata, a frail voice echoed from the rear mountain as the four great earth immortals prepared to depart. The past Tathagata, crippled by the 6th Imperial Ancestor and his allies, clung to life with desperate tenacity. He yearned for power, hoping to revive and ascend to the heights of a sage-like peerless powerhouse. Mu Kangwu scoffed, Your lifespan is nearly exhausted, your form and spirit decaying, your body riddled with cracks, forcibly bound by flood dragon tendons. Your potential has been thoroughly drained. What use could you possibly be now? The four earth immortals didn't spare him another glance as they drifted away. PFF'd. Past Tathagata spat out a mouthful of dark blood, his rage boiling over. He muttered, I must live another life. Nirvana and rebirth. He cursed inwardly, damn these dog-bred earth immortals. How dare they look down on me? The four great earth immortals then visited the Qingtian sect and the Jade Pure sect, but their search yielded nothing. None of the individuals on their list was present in their respective ancestral courts. Far away, the great red dragon, having heard news from the Tathagata sect, immediately flapped its wings to deliver a message. Sage, those four earth immortals scorned your disciples. Rumor has it they enraged past Tathagata so much that he vomited blood incessantly. Your useless disciple is on the verge of death. Truly pathetic. On the fringes of Night Province, one of the very sources of the Bashu silk book technique, the reigning sage of the era sighed upon hearing this news. He turned to ask, have you found that dog carrying the green bamboo sword yet? No sign of the dog, but I did spot a plump black and white bear munching on bamboo shoots from afar, the great red dragon reported. The four great earth immortals' sweeping conquest of the world left no one daring to stand against them, sending shockwaves through Night Province and beyond. Following this, the four old monsters journeyed to the esoteric sect, paying visits to each of its major ancestral courts. The esoteric sect possesses profound foundations, they remarked. Legend has it that one of their founding ancestors left Night Province and ascended to become a 7th realm divine being in the distant outer realm. After thorough inquiry and investigation, they concluded that this figure was likely an earth god, their equal in status, who lay dormant in the eastern land. If they could locate him, they might invite him to ascend to the 9 heavens. This ancestral court of the esoteric sect truly holds some secrets, one of the old monsters observed. Sense carefully and probe the hearts of the disciples. There's a founding ancestor here with the potential to become a heavenly god. Soon, the four old monsters' expressions turned solemn as they delved deeper. They discovered that a ruthless figure from the esoteric sect was cultivating in the forbidden lands of Kunling. This individual wasn't seeking to become an earth god, instead, he aimed to become a peerless powerhouse of the seventh realm without altering his fundamental life form. He's been refining multiple forbidden lands in Kunling. Could he actually succeed? Let's go take a look. The four great earth immortals wore grave expressions. Could a true god truly be about to emerge on the mortal plane? The four old monsters have set out for Kunling, likely to find that ruthless hermit from the esoteric sect. An elder transmitted the news to a distant location after the four powerhouses departed. Someone whispered, recently, faint seven-colored mists have been rising from the forbidden lands of Kunling. Has that ruthless figure from the esoteric sect succeeded? If the four old monsters dare to excavate there, who knows what might happen? Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.